Brian are doing it online, right?
And the mayor's here too.
Until
I've got perfect, Brian. Ooh, look at that. Congratulations.
I saw that.
Yeah, that I was
Thank you.
hoping
I
for a
was
good
very excited.
deadline. Okay, well then, we will start the work session this evening. It is, John, you're first. You're up. So if you want to just come right up here to the table there.
Made hard copy. If anybody wants hard copies,
That'd be great.
Sure.
welcome.
Do that. Whoa. I know that table's not supposed to be there.
Tax.
Do you want any extras?
I think Jody will want one. Sure.
Yeah, Jody wants one for the official record.
Look at that.
You can see it sitting back.
Thank you.
Nothing changed from last week, last council meeting to this council meeting as far as what the report is, right? I didn't see
Yeah,
any
we issued
changes
these
in December.
beginning of December. Yeah, so nothing changed.
Perfect.
Okay, well, I'll go through our reports, what the opinions are, what they mean. And then if you guys have questions, I'm happy to
Remind
answer
us your
questions.
last name?
Hatterley, Haderle. And I'm a partner at Larson and Company.
Okay.
Okay, so the first report we're gonna go over is on page 1, so immediately following the table of contents. So if you're familiar with audited financial statements, this is very similar to any type of entity. There is different language if it's a government versus a nonprofit versus public or private, but the format's typically the same. The first two paragraphs are opinion paragraphs. So the first paragraph just outlines, it kind of identifies what we're giving opinion on. So it's the governmental activities, the business activities, any component units, and then each major fund and the remaining fund information. So I'll explain what those mean. And then the second paragraph is the actual opinion. It's an unmodified or an unqualified opinion. I know you're not going to see those terms, but for the sake of boring you with accounting language, what that means is we haven't had to modify or change this report for conditions or things that came up during the audit that we couldn't either test, we couldn't get external confirmations for. We didn't know what the balances were, should have been. That's what would modify your audit report and therefore give you, it wouldn't be a clean opinion. But unmodified is a clean opinion. And then the basis for our opinion, that's just our governing bodies. The responsibilities of management for the net financial statements. So you guys are ultimately responsible for the financial statements. Your software helps you prepare the financial statements. And then we have Chris and Jody review the financial statements, just for language, mostly in the notes. But ultimately, they're responsible for knowing and understanding the accounting principles, and making sure that they're done properly. Not that we can't be assistants. We talk to Chris quite often. New accounting principles are always coming out, and we help them implement them and understand what they're meaning and how it's changing. I mostly want to focus on the second paragraph of that section. So this came about, typically it's national or worldwide events that happen that then our standards change. And if you remember a few years ago, we had that awesome thing called COVID, and that changed our standards. Nobody wanted to talk about the effects COVID was having on their businesses. They didn't want to disclose it in the financial statements if it was negatively impacting them, or they just didn't. And if you go back a few years during that time period, we actually made you put a note disclosure in your financial statements that said, hey, we understand that this is happening. We don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know what the effect is going to be on our city. In Utah, the government's actually fared really well through the COVID period because of all the federal money that all of a sudden everybody had. And we kind of just went back to normal. I mean, Utah was not like a New York or a California where we shut down for months on end. And so outside of the state, not a lot of governments, there were a lot of governments who actually almost filed bankruptcy. They had to get additional federal money. They had to get state money, things like that to just continue to operate. Private businesses, there were a lot of private businesses that just closed up shop. So that was the kind of the cause or the caveat that then changed our standards that now say you're required to identify conditions or events that are happening that would prohibit you from continuing as a going concern, at least for the next year. We also have that same requirement. So when we do the audit, typically when I'm reviewing my team's audit work and then I'm reviewing the financial statements, I'll pull up your trial balance for at least the last 5 years, looking for negative trends, things like that, that would signify to me that there's something going on that's impacting you in a negative way. And then we'll look at it, okay, can I move past this? If we do identify anything, we're going to be talking to Chris and Jody and say, have you recognized this? Do you guys know what you're going to do about it? There wasn't really anything. I think the language is going to change because for a going concern doesn't really mean anything for a government. And so I think at least for intents and purposes of this report, GASB's now looking at changing that because governments typically just don't go out of business. I mean, you're not going to fold up shop and
It's hard.
reincorporate back into Salem. I mean, I
So-
don't think anybody up here wants that, and I don't think it's going to
So
happen.
if we're required on that condition or event, would that be, I mean, you mentioned COVID, but it could be a natural disaster.
It could be.
Or something else that's extraordinarily out of our control.
Yep, or it could be that for some reason your property taxes, there's a big change in your property tax, which is a negative down. What if we got rid of property taxes in the state of Utah? All of a sudden, you've got to come up with a way to generate revenue outside of property taxes. So that's a negative event that could
Okay.
potentially affect your ability to continue to operate.
Mhm.
Well, thank goodness nobody at the legislature wants that.
Well, they'd have to come up with something if they're gonna get rid of, I mean, property taxes, like them or not, they're here and that's how we generate a lot of revenue. And so they'd have to come up with some other way for cities to maintain revenue. All right, so the second part I want to point out in this report is on the second page, the required supplementary information right there. There are certain sections that are part of the they're part of the financial statement packet, but they're not part of the basic financial statements. And that's the management discussion analysis. So you can see that it starts on the very next page. And then after the notes, there's a section called required supplementary information that has your budget schedules and the 10-year schedules for the pension liability. So those two sections are not considered part of the basic financial statements, but they always have to be attached to the financial statements under our guidance. And the reason why is they give more understandability and readability to the financial statements. So if you're not somebody who likes to get in the weeds of the numbers, the MD&A is a good place to start to read because it's more dialogue. If you're used to looking at private company financial statements, typically what they'll do is they'll present the current year that's being audited as well as the most previous year. So you can see, okay, cash changed by this amount. And so at least you'll get to see at least the prior period. Well, the way government financial statements are set up, there really isn't the space in the statements to do comparative data. So that's why we have the MD&A. So it's a lot of comparative, hey, this is what changed over last year, and this is why it changed. And you guys can really word this and put whatever information you want to explain the differences. So that's something that you can kind of tailor to you guys, if you want different things in there. What's in there is now is just kind of the basic required information that has to be in the MD&A. And the software, Polaris does all the drafting of that. So we really don't even have a say in what you guys put in there. I just make sure that the minimum requirements are in there. All right.
Will this be posted to our city
I think
webpage?
it's on the
Should be.
On the meeting market.
You can also get it on the state auditor website too.
Attach the audit and it should be there already under our.
I'm just thinking, I'm just wondering if maybe we should post the link on our community page or as,
Or in the newsletter.
yeah.
The financials, you can find the 2026 out there.
Because we've got some people that are spreading a lot of misinformation, and so I'm just wondering if we could post the actual audit and
Yep, it's right there.
like a link. How do you feel about me posting a link? You okay with that?
Yeah.
I
that's
think
fine.
his explanation is even more beneficial, because I read the whole thing, but I'm like.
Yeah. Well, maybe
it's a
the
lot to
link
read.
and then the,
Link for the meeting where
with
he
the
explains it.
video of you talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
And then
could do
people could
that.
say from here to here,
And it-
listen, and here's the.
And if there's confusion, I'm more than happy to come up to a meeting and go through each statement and say, okay, this is what this statement is telling you. And this is what this statement's, because there are differences, and I'll kind of go through a couple of them just by a matter of explanation if you guys want. Because a lot of people get confused when they're reading the financial statements because they're giving different information. So, all right, so we're gonna flip to page 51. I don't know which of the PDF it is. It's gonna be the gas report. Is Chris running it?
Which page?
51, Chris.
Yeah, keep going down.
The letter.
I just wonder if it'd be helpful or not. posted. Do you think it would?
Yeah.
Yep, that one. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this report. There's not an opinion as part of this. This report just outlines that we performed our audit in accordance with government auditing standards. So this is a required report when we do a government audit. And it just says that we're looking at your internal controls. So part of a government audit is we have to make sure that A, you have controls in place, and B, they're actually functioning the way they should be. And what this report outlines is that what we're looking for are material weaknesses or significant deficiencies or a bunch of control deficiencies that as you group them together are causing material misstatements in the financial statements. So if we find material misstatements, then typically we'll go figure out, okay, what is causing this? And typically we find a control that is not working the way it should be. That needs to be corrected. And if we find any, we have to outline them as part of this report. All right, so the next report, page 53. So this is the second opinion that we give as part of your audit. The first one is on your financial statements. Like I said, that's the primary scope of our audit. This one we do for the state auditor. So every year they issue the compliance guide. And it's different areas that they feel are either a concern ongoing or it's new, or, things that they've had problems with in the past that they want to make sure that people are in compliance with. So this opinion is very specific to those areas outlined. So your budgetary compliance, we make sure that you're following and you have budget integrity. Restricted taxes, if you get restricted revenue, you have to track it separately and make sure that you spend it appropriately. Governmental fees, if you're charging government fees, we make sure that they're appropriate and that they're proportionate. And by what I mean by that is this one actually came out because of a lot of the schools in Utah. So if I was to park here, so let's say I'm here for an hour, and if I had to pay to park and I had to pay $10. Well, let's say that Jody comes at 8 o'clock in the morning, she's here all day and she has to pay the same $10. Well, that's not proportionate to why should I have to pay $10 and she pays $10 and she parks all day and I park for an hour? So it's not equal based on my use. The other issue that came up, the reason why this is here is, a good example would be like at a university. So everybody pays student fees. Well, the whole student body was having to pay for study abroad fees, that like a $25 fee or something like that as part of their student fees. Well, 1% of the student body actually goes study abroad. So that's not a fair fee for them to charge. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Utah retirement system, making sure that you're making your contributions, that people are on leave, get put on leave in the system. When people enroll, that they're enrolled the right time. Open and Public Meetings Act, making sure that you're given the proper public notices if you have public hearings, that you're recording the minutes, that they're posted. things like that. Enterprise fund transfers, this kind of came about a few years ago. The state auditor basically put a stop to all transfers out of any utility funds. So what people were doing, and Spanish Fork's a great example of this. Not that it was wrong what they were doing, but property taxes and the taxes you collect in the general fund, as you know, typically don't pay for all of the services that you have to provide for out of the general fund. And as you know, in Spanish Fork, recreation is a huge thing. So they would transfer money out of the enterprise funds because they are typically money makers to cover for recreation. And so what happened was that there were citizens who complained, people that are on a fixed income or they don't participate in recreation, and they're like, hey, why do we have to pay our utility bill that's this high and we don't use it for recreation? So the decision came, well, do you want to keep recreation or do you want to keep paying the fees? And they voted to keep recreation. The state auditor didn't like that. They were going to put a complete stop to enterprise fund transfers. We kind of pushed back on it. I remember, I think I had a conversation with Chris about this actually when it came about, and then, Spanish Fork City and some of the other cities, they reached out and said, hey, like there's a need to transfer money out because like all of your staff are paid for out of the general fund, but they're doing work for the enterprise fund. So they should have to pay for a portion of that. And so we push back on the state auditors, and so they allow administrative costs. We actually treat it different rather than transfers now. But there are regulations. If you transfer money out of the enterprise funds back into the general fund, then there's public notices that have to happen and things like that. So we just make sure that that's.
So you can do it, but just on a limited basis
Yep.
for what, mostly admin costs.
Yep. So the admin costs now are an expense to instead of just a transfer, it's actually an expense to the enterprise fund and a revenue to the general fund. Whereas historically you would just transfer the money. Now, if you're going to transfer money, you have to present financial statements and Chris could probably tell you more because I just don't get in the details of it. But now you have to present to the public, hey, this is the impact on the enterprise fund, the percentage that it's going to knock it down. This is why we're doing it. There has to be specific reasons why you're doing it. And the public has to be okay with that. Fund balance. So there's a couple of things that we look at in fund balance. We make sure that all of your funds maintain a positive fund balance. And when I say fund balance, that's the equity section, retained earnings in private terms. And we're also looking at in the general fund, you can only have 35% of your actual revenue retained in the
change
general
that.
fund to roll into the next period.
They're looking to change that for
And
next
they're
year.
dropping it back down, which is ridiculous because costs have just gone up.
Most
I don't even
cities
know why
have
they're talking
30,
about it.
most cities have 35%. We did a
Yep.
little study the other day.
All the cities, if you're a city, you have 35. If you're a town, it's different. If you're a county, it's different. But all Utah cities, the limit is 35 as a max, 5% as a minimum. 5% always been the minimum. It was 25%, but then when COVID hit and everybody was getting all this federal money, it was hard to spend all the money, and so they bumped it up to 35. Now they're talking about dropping it back down, but inflation, I don't even know why they're talking about it. They need to leave it at 35 because if it was me consulting the city, I would say that you need to maintain at right below the minimum all the time. Because really that's, you rely on property taxes and, your property taxes are assessed and you collect that at year end.
Right below the maximum, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
because that's
35.
kind of your rainy day fund as a city.
Mhm.
I mean, counties have other ways that they can have rainy day funds, but as a city, you really can't. And if you're trying to save money, I know that
I thought it was 30.
historically, the city has had that finding where you've been above the maximum, and so we have to give you a finding. But you're really just planning for future projects. So you need to make sure that you're transferring money into the capital projects fund. That's kind of where you hold for future projects. All right, cash management, we're just making sure that money's getting deposited the way it should be, that you're filing your deposit and investment report every 6 months. And that's accurate. The fraud risk assessment, I skipped that. Sorry. I really hate talking about the fraud risk assessment. I hate that thing. I don't think that what the state auditors are doing with the fraud risk assessment is a good practice. The actual assessment itself gets you thinking about internal controls and making sure that you have good internal controls as a city. But once they started assigning a score to that, then it lost the intent of what it was supposed to be. We do our own fraud risk assessment when we come and do the audits. But the fact that now an insurance company is dropping people if they don't score a certain score on that fraud risk assessment, what that is doing is it's causing people to lie on the fraud risk assessment so you can score high enough so you can maintain your insurance. And in reality, and maybe Chris can talk to this too, I don't like it. I've always talked against it. I've had long discussions with the state auditors about it. It was supposed to go away, but then the one who actually created the document left the state auditor's office, and they've just created a monster that is, you still have to do it every year. So we'll go through it. We go through it with Chris every year, make sure that you're reporting accurately and that you're getting the score that you should be. Anyways, just know that I don't love that fraud risk assessment.
Well, and some of the questions are harder because a larger city versus a
Yep.
smaller city, that's the problem, in that some of the answers give you a ding, even though it's just not applicable to you.
Well, and this is, so now you're getting into the reason why I don't like it, because Salt Lake City fills out the exact same fraud risk assessment as you guys do. And the town of Bluff fills out the same fraud risk assessment that you guys do. And I'm sorry, once you get outside the Wasatch Front, you're not gonna have the availability of CPAs that are gonna work for your city or the government. You're not gonna have the same separation of duties, but you all have mitigating controls that you really can't talk about on the fraud risk assessment. And so it's not a one size fits all. And and they're trying to make it that. So anyway, and then impact fees, if you charge impact fees, we make sure that the impact fees tie back to the financial statements. Don't like that one either. But for some reason, that's a real hot button right now with the state auditors. And then crime insurance for the public treasurer. So Jody as a treasurer is just, she's required to be bonded. Most of the time through your insurance, you have crime and theft. That's way more than what used to be. I don't even know why that's still a part of state compliance, because they switched it and now allowed your crime and theft to cover, instead of you having to go out and get your own treasurer's bond and pay an extra $4,000 to $5,000 a year to be covered. Now it's just all part of your insurance. So, all right. So our opinion on all of that I went through is also an unmodified opinion. So clean opinion there. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at A, your compliance, but B, making sure that you have the controls in place to make sure that you don't go out of compliance. So this one is kind of a dual opinion.
Which page are you looking at now?
I'm still looking at page 53.
Okay,
And then if you turn to page 56 is the findings for this year. So no findings this year, either on the financial statement side or the state compliance side, as well as the prior year. So we always include prior year, because if you do have findings, we have to make sure that they were addressed and corrected.
so our ones from last year were addressed.
Yeah, there weren't any last year. So 2 years ago, I think
Yeah.
was the finding. I think there was a budget finding, and then there was the fund balance finding a couple of years ago. But a couple of years now, there haven't been any findings.
Okay,
All right, so now if you want to turn to the stapled together page, and the reason why it's stapled together and not part of the audit is that this is communication just to you guys as a governing body, kind of a closing, I guess you will, our communication of how the audit went, if we found anything. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on the first section, our responsibilities, because that's all outlined in the engagement letter. That's why we have you sign the engagement letter. The next section, talking about ethical requirements regarding independence. We have to be independent of the city. Not only me and my team, but our entire firm has to be independent of the city. And we know what the threats to independence are. And that onus of responsibility does not fall on Jody, or it doesn't fall on Chris or you guys. That responsibility lies with me, and we have to document it in our audit. So when we get peer reviewed, we have our own people that come and audit us. That's usually the first section they're gonna look at, is if we've documented our independence and made sure that we're independent. Significant risks identified. This is a section that I get pushed back on all the time. This is nothing new to us. It's just a new requirement over probably 3 or 4 years ago that we now have to communicate to you what our significant risks are. And this really has nothing to do with you as a city. You cannot get away from these. So improper revenue recognition, this has been this is one of those events that happened that changed our standards. So this goes back to Arthur Anderson and Enron. So if you guys remember that whole debacle, that changed our standards, that now we have to recognize revenue recognition as a significant risk. Cash disbursements, you're a public entity, a government, you're dealing with public funds. They want to make sure that the funds are being spent appropriately. Public hearings are being done. And then the third one is also based on our standards, and this is just management bias. So you can build bias into the note disclosures. So if there's something that maybe isn't really favorable to the city, the way you word things in the notes can make it appear favorable to the city. So you're misleading the financial statement users by the language that you use in the notes. Financial statement estimates, there are estimates that are built into the financial statements, and you can use those estimates, you can change them to also make your financial statements appear more favorable. So we're looking at your estimates, and then the ability of management to override controls. And the best way that I can describe this is through journal entries. So Chris, in the system, all of your financial statement system is built on transactions. So as you assess property taxes or you assess utilities, there's a transaction that happens in the system that records that revenue and that receivable. And then when the citizens come in to pay for that, then you're going to increase the cash and you're going to decrease the receivable. So individual transactions build your financial statement system. And there's 50,000 to 100,000 transactions a year, right? So if there is a mistake that happens in the system, maybe something gets coded wrong, maybe there's a fat finger number or something, or at the year end or at month end, quarter end, whatever, you're going to do journal entries that aren't based on individual transactions. It's either correcting something that happened in the system, or it's adjusting balances for like depreciation, non-cash things like the I call it GASB 68, but it's the pension, all the net pension liability, all that stuff happens at year end. So because they're not based on individual transactions and you're not recording a transaction, you have to do it through a journal entry. So you have to have the ability to create a journal entry in the system, but that journal entry is overriding the transaction control. And also with the journal entries, it's kind of an inherent limitation of controls. You can do nefarious things in the financial statements with journal entries. So what all of this means is we know going into the audit, okay, these are our risks. So we assign risk to cash, we assign risk to capital assets, we assign risk to your expenditures. And based on just the nature of cash, it's going to have a higher risk than like your capital assets. So capital assets, it's really easy for us to determine historical costs. So we know the value in the financial statements is appropriate. And it's hard to misappropriate. So if somebody can't pick up this building or steal a fire truck without you noticing it very quickly. Cash, on the other hand, it gets assigned a higher risk because it's easy to misappropriate. So it's easy to steal cash, and it's easy to make the value not what it should be in the financial statements. So based on that risk, we have to do certain procedures to make sure that the balances are correct. Well, overall, we have these significant risks that we plan and perform specific tests targeting these risks to make sure that there's not misstatements in the financial statements being caused by these risks. So that's why I say you really can't get around them. We know these going into the audit. We are now actually putting them as part of our engagement letter. So even before we start the audit, we know, hey, we're going to have to address these significant risks as part of our audit process. So all of that, like, I know that was a long-winded discussion to say this has always been part of our audit practice. We've always done this. We just now have to communicate to the governing body what our significant risks are. All right, if you want to flip to the next page, accounting policies, estimates, financial statement disclosures, we've talked about that. We talked about that as part of the significant risks. Significant difficulties encountered during the audit. There weren't any difficulties on our side. Typically, the difficulties we find is if we request information, we don't get that either immediately or shortly after. If we are waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks and we've requested information, then the fraud risk kind of, the hairs on my neck start standing up saying, okay, why aren't they giving us the information? Do they not have the information? Or are they manipulating the information? But your staff is amazing. They do a great job. We actually do probably 90% of our audit in our office in Spanish Fork now. And I think we're on site maybe one day to do walkthroughs and to do our sample tests that we don't want to take documents off site. So we'll just come here and review the documents. But 90% of what we do is all remote now. And COVID really changed that. It made everybody comfortable with, hey, we don't have to have the auditors here on site for a full week. Let's see, uncorrected misstatements. So as we're doing our test work, if we find differences, let's say that we're testing property taxes, and based on what you have recorded in the system, based on the third-party confirmation we get from the county, let's say that there's a $7,000 difference. Well, we determine materiality levels, and we have a level that's individually insignificant. So if there's a difference between what we're calculating and what you show, and that's individually insignificant, then we pass on it without further testing. That means that we can still give a clean opinion, even though your books might show a little bit of a difference between what we think it should be. If that rises to either above individually significant or below materiality, we track them internally and then we accumulate them at the end. And if it becomes a material amount, then we say, okay, you have to make some of these adjustments because right now what we're saying is materially different than what you're saying. We've got to whittle it down to where we can give a clean opinion. We actually didn't even have any uncorrected misstatements, and we didn't even have any unadjusted misstatements. So any adjustments that we proposed, they were accepted by management and put into the trial balance. So really, if we were to pull a trial balance, if Chris was to send me a trial balance for the end of the year, and if I looked at our trial balance, they would match exactly. There aren't any differences. Circumstances that affect the form, the content of the audit report. We just have to communicate if we modify or have to change our audit report, then we have to communicate that to you, but there weren't any changes. Management representation. So we get a representation letter, just like we have you guys sign an engagement letter. We also have you sign a representation letter. And what that tells me, it's more of a comfort letter to me that it's Chris's, and Jody's representations to us that they've given us all the information that we've requested. They haven't changed any of the information, that they're not aware of anything like litigation that we haven't been made aware of that potentially could affect our opinion, things of that nature. Consultations with other accountants. If there are questions that arise, if we're saying, hey, look, there's this new accounting standard and this is how you should be doing it, and the city disagrees and says, well, we're not going to change the way we're doing it, you can go talk to a third-party audit firm. We just have to know that you're talking to them, and we also need to communicate with them and say, hey, look, this is our interpretation, this is our understanding. We understand that this is the way the city's doing it. Let's work together. Let's come to a conclusion and let's move forward with the audit. And then other significant matters or findings or communications during the year. Like I said, we talked to Chris multiple times during the year. There's always new things that are coming out, and he's asking questions. I know the impact fees was a big one that we talked about. We can't come back to the city and say, hey, by the way, Chris called us 8 times this year. So now you have to bind us into a 10-year contract because we have conversations through the year. So our relationship with the city has to maintain that professionalism of hopefully we're providing the value that you expect out of an auditor. And we can't bind you into a long-term contract based on any conversations that we have. So that's just communication that we are required to. Okay, you want me to keep going or are you guys done?
Well, is there anything that Do you also feel with me,
So let me just give a brief explanation, just because the public's probably gonna hear this.
yes, please.
Okay, so our opinion on the financial statement, if you turn to page 15, so this is, if Chris is scrolling, Chris, this is the government-wide financial statements. So when I say that we give opinions, we're actually giving an opinion on every column in the financial statement. So if you look on this one, this is the governmental activities, business type activities. If you flip over a couple of pages, you'll see the general fund, the capital projects fund. And then if you flip over a couple more pages, you'll see the water and then the non-major sewer fund. So we're giving an opinion on each of these columns. It just so happens that all of the opinions are unmodified, so it rolls up into an opinion. If we said, okay, the water fund, we're modifying that opinion, then in the audit report, we have to say, okay, here's a list of all of the columns on the financial statements and what their opinions are. So if we look at page 15, what this statement is telling you, this is the government-wide statements, and this is done on the full accrual basis of accounting. So if you guys understand accounting, full accrual and these statements are based on the economic resources methodology, meaning that it's all of your economic resources that you have as a city that provide viability. So you'll look and see, okay, we have capital assets on here. So those capital assets, you have $18 million in capital assets that give you economic resources. You also have long-term debt that says, okay, we owe people money long-term. So typically this statement is going to be used by outside parties because they're going to be looking at, okay, what's your debt to equity ratio? What are the capital assets that you have that provide viability? If you want to flip to page 18, these are typically what you're going to see from Chris during the year. And this is your general fund and the capital projects fund. And these are recorded on the modified accrual, meaning this is more what current resources do we have to operate in the next 12 months. So you'll notice on the balance sheet here, you don't see any capital assets, anything that's long-term. You don't see any long-term debt. You don't see any net pension liability or things like that, because all you care about as a city is what funds do we have available to operate our city within the next 12 months. So nothing long-term, this is all short-term stuff. So it's not quite cash basis, but it's not full accrual either. And this is where, as citizens or you guys as a council, this is where you need to spend your world, because this is what you're typically looking at throughout the year. Of what money do we have available? And as you get money in, it's a revenue, and as you pay money out, it's an expense. It's not showing up on the balance sheet. So as you pay debt payments, they're going to show up as an expense. But then when we convert it to the government-wide statements, then it's going to come out of the expenses and go up and offset your debt on the balance sheet. But for you guys, you just know, hey, we have a debt payment that we have to pay this year. And so it's going to be an expense to you guys. So that's kind of the difference between the two statements. The water and sewer fund, they're a full accrual, just like the government-wide statement. So there isn't a difference between the two statements. That total enterprise fund column right there on this that you can see on the screen. So that is going to mimic what shows under the business type activities on that first statement that we looked at, because they're full accrual. So you'll see the long term, because they're treated just like a normal business inside of the city. So that's kind of government financial statements 101. Everybody gets confused because they're looking at the government-wide statement saying, hey, this says that we made this much money, when in reality, your fund statements paint a totally different picture. So you just have to know what statements are telling you what. Okay, any other questions for me?
I probably don't know what to ask. But I'm glad it was a good audit.
Yeah, and I'm always
Like, everything
available.
was good on it.
So if you guys come up with questions, if you're going through them, you're like, hey, I really don't understand what this is telling me, or I have questions on this, like, feel free to reach out to me. I think Chris has me on speed dial, so Chris has my contact information, and in fact, I just presented a couple of financial statements for a city a couple weeks ago, and I've already had like 3 calls from council members on just questions. So, and even if it's not audit related, I know you guys are doing a legislative update. I'm trying to follow legislation pretty close because there's a lot of things that I'm really interested in with the public improvement districts and other things with the state auditor.
Tax and
We're trying to, right now, I'm kind of at odds with the state auditor. So if you, and Chris knows this, if you guys run into issues, if the state auditor start asking questions, please come to us first. Like, go through us instead of trying to fight the state auditor by yourself. Because typically, a lot of times, they're kind of overstepping their bounds. And I can kind of be that middle person to communicate with them and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. So, and Chris knows that. He'll usually call me and say, hey, this is what state auditor's asking. And so we'll kind of give him direction on what to do. So,
Wonderful.
Thank you.
okay.
I can attest, even if he's not in the country, he'll still call you back.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we had a good conversation. I was in American Samoa, so.
oh,
yes, he was. John, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Okay. Probably way more than you wanted to hear, but
no,
No, more is always better than less.
We do get questions, so it's nice to.
And you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting. Because
to get to, so I'm probably.
You're welcome to duck out when you want. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for letting me come.
Of course,
Usually don't get up.
we appreciate you having you here in person. Well, usually you probably can't get up here this time of year, so
Yeah, and we actually would like to come right after we issue. I just know that my schedule didn't work out with your schedules, and then we left for a month overseas to work, so. Typically, we're issuing late November, early December, so we'll try to get to like an early December meeting, so.
wonderful.
wonderful.
Yeah, that'll be very helpful. Thank you. Okay, number 2, January 2026 financials and check disbursements. Chris?
Yep, this one, I would like to highlight one thing that came across, and this is an interesting thing that happens with us every once in a while, and that is the prior year's property taxes. Give me just a second here to pull it up. I assume this, does it show the citywide financials now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So once again, we get paid on prior year property taxes. These are people that haven't paid the previous 1, 2, 3 years. We got a large chunk in December, January of $104,000. So we've only anticipated getting 65. So I know, Mayor, we've talked about keeping track of projects and things like that, but that is nice that some people were able to catch up their property taxes and give the city some property tax revenue that we hadn't received in previous years. And so I think I highlighted that on my email. And the other thing on email was the animal control, but just because it shows 100% paid through the year and we're only about 58% of the year through, that is just because we only pay twice a year on animal control, July and January. But otherwise, we are working on the budget to make the changes for the upcoming budget in March that we talked about, taking off the bonding. And then we're also going to look at April to do an overall change of the budget to tune some things up, like this revenue right here, and then some expenses.
Wonderful. Is there any questions for Chris?
I looked through it. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me.
Yeah, one of the questions I had, sorry.
No, I'm good. You go.
It seems like most of our departments are pretty high on the miscellaneous category, like fires at 100, EMS 50, which is low, plows at 71, Public Works 105, Parks Trails is at 80%. And they're all classified in the miscellaneous that I'm looking at.
Which can you give me an account number that you're looking at for, like, let's just say roads.
Yeah, let me tell you. So I'm looking at the summarized
Oh. Let's see, let me pull that one up here. Got it right here.
Is it a number?
So it's the January 2026 summarized.
Doesn't have a number on it, does it?
No, it doesn't.
So it's just
Summarized budget
summarized statement
financials.
and miscellaneous, which is gonna kind of pull everything together.
Yeah, just kind of lumping them all together there. Let's see.
You go to the more detailed one, Steve, you should be able to see that miscellaneous.
See how each one of them breaks out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the miscellaneous is typically, so I've got the miscellaneous up now. Are you just looking at the revenue line, or was there another one you're looking at?
Well, if you scroll down to each one of the sections there, so there you got fire,
Oh,
miscellaneous.
okay.
Yeah.
So on all those capital projects, those are because the money's gonna be rolled out of those capital projects and put back into the general account.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you go into the detail, I'll show you a little bit more, but that's good question.
Okay. Great.
Perfect. Brian, you usually have something for us.
Unfortunately, I did not get time to dig into it, but there's not really that much changes that we didn't talk about last time. I mean, we got the bigger changes coming up again. I want to make sure we're looking at adjusting those individual budgets that we know are going to change, that we should be putting more into, and then dealing with this, getting these things out, and getting the loan out and those kind of things. So I didn't get a ton of time to look at it. I've been a little busy.
We did have a little conversation this morning, Brian and I, so.
Well, wonderful. It's also important to just for everybody to know, we will be having a public hearing on the budget next council meeting. So the 10th of March. My memory serving me correct there, Jody? 10th of March, where we will be pulling that loan out that's currently sitting in revenue that we were going to be planning on using for that road project. And just because it's not going to hit till next fiscal year, so we're going to pull it out and then reapply it next fiscal year when that takes place.
Can Chris look at account number 41,699, and there is some journal entries that were done in September 10th of 2025 and 12/1/2025, which I'm having problems understanding why we're over on that budget.
Can you repeat the number again?
41,699. And that's just our admin miscellaneous expenditures.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
we not have anything allotted in that one, or was that funds that were allotted in last prior year and not paid? Just if you can look into that maybe later and then.
Yeah, so it just takes me a second to get the computer program pulled up and stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
a small account. It's $1,000 budget, but we've spent $1,569 on it.
Yeah,
But it
I'll
also-
have to look into that.
Old incorrect balance clearing, and that's where
Yeah, I think that was coming off the balance sheet. I'll look into that and get back with you on that one.
okay, thanks.
Kind of on the same note, if we look at 4141.350, the admin professional services, I'm guessing where that overage is coming in, but just would love a little clarity there. Where it
You may not have been on council when I talked about that one, but that deals with the trails feasibility study that's going on. So we're getting $92,000 from the county, and they're paying for Ted, help me, is it 90% of the study? And the city's coming up with $6,000, 92% of the study. And so
Trail study.
the trails feasibility study.
Yeah, we the trail study total was $100,000, but our share of that was $6,000 something dollars.
Okay.
The county reimburses us, so whenever we pay the consultant, we submit those receipts to the county, then they reimburse us the money.
Okay.
I think it's $93,000 something dollars what the county reimburses us.
Okay. And that normally wouldn't be on a projects fund. It would normally stay in the general fund, the admin side of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Cause there'll be an
Yeah,
in
we
and
did.
out.
We didn't put it in the budget, which we should have, right? We need to adjust that budget when we make the changes so that it's showing that it's there, because we also will get the revenue from the county. And that was one of the things we talked about last time as well. So yeah, that's it
And
just throws you off, and we just got to make those changes that are coming up next time that are going to help with making those a little bit more congruent with what's actually happening.
Wonderful. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then we will carry on. Number 3, community engagement and citizen participation. So after this is our 4th council meeting now with this current administration. And so what I wanted to do is kind of set out kind of a structure of how I would love to see these meetings proceed. And I kind of pushed it later in just so we could make sure we got more people here. So this, for those that don't know, this first section is the work session. So the council meeting will come later. One of my primary goals with the work session is for the council to be able to discuss and have discourse in the public's eye on any topic that may arise on the agenda. Sometimes I will open that up to the public, like I did with the mailboxes, so that we can have, I think, a proper, robust discussion. If it's something that is a little bit more confrontational or multiple different opinions that I think we could all value hearing and taking the amount of time, because that's really the biggest problem, is when I open it up to the full gallery, it adds at least an hour probably to that discussion topic. And so what I will do is request, as we go forward throughout the next 4 years, unless I decide to change this, that we keep all comments down. If there is a comment, feel free to raise a hand if you're one of the community, and I will see if we have enough time for it or not. But I'd like to be able to try and keep them a little bit tight, so that we can try and get home somewhat at a reasonable hour. But I also, most importantly, want to make sure that I'm not, cooking through these meetings simply so that we do get home. I want to make sure that we're doing the city business in the sunlight, but also effectively and efficiently. So there's a whole document on the minutes there. There is a public comment section during the city council meeting. So if possible, that'd be great, taking your notes, and we'd love to hear those. To try and keep everybody at an equal playing field, we will try and keep those as close to that 2-minute timeline as possible. Public comment will require being in public, coming and joining us here. So if you're interested in those, we would love to have you. This is one of the reasons also that I am sending out that kind of vlog each week prior to council meetings, so that we can reach as many people as possible with what the agenda is. But that's kind of my goals with this meeting. If the council has any suggestions contrary, I'd be more than happy to hear them now, or please reach out to me.
I think the videos have been really beneficial. I've gotten a few comments back because sometimes, like Diana said, you might see this brief thing on here and not really understand what it means, but just a short understanding makes a big difference with people. And then they know if they want to come or just listen afterwards or join online. And I think it makes a big difference just explaining what our short little spot means.
Thank you. I have failed thus far. We do have Councilmember Hutchings online and Councilmember Roden, both of which are out of town. So we really appreciate you guys logging in and joining us.
Ben, one
Yeah.
thing I was gonna say, I know that when we were at the Capitol, one of the things that I learned was they do allow people to speak up online, but they have to have their camera on and be identified as themselves. I don't know if that's
Yeah, if
Something
they're
we're
gonna do a
willing-
public comment online, yeah,
that they
On
at
camera
least
with your
post
name.
camera, yeah, because that is one of the state legislation requirements. But
Yep.
it does allow them, if they want to stay in their underwear, to do so. So,
They have a shirt on.
Shirts on, should we just waist up? No, and if anybody online in that same conversation, if you have something you would like to speak up on and it is during the work session, you're welcome to use the raised hand icon. If I see it and I feel like it would distract us or take us off course, I'll acknowledge the hand, say, thank you for it, but that we will need to hold that for the public comment. And then we will get there. So,
Mayor,
yes, sir.
how do you treat written comments, written response, or written question?
So those, like I just earlier said, we'll want those all in public. So if somebody wants to write in a comment and send it in, we'll take them. However, they may not be attached to the minutes or they may not be read. It's up to my discretion, or the council's. So the council can receive those and request to also bring those forward as well.
Thank you.
So, and the staff is of a different ilk in this regard, simply because they have a different set of information. So they'll play by a little bit of a different set of rules there. So thank you, everybody, for humoring me with that.
Mayor, really quick,
Yes.
on those written ones, if they're sent in, as we have in the past, they will continue to be dispersed throughout the council at least, so that we have that opportunity to review them before the minutes.
Yes, it would take something of extreme sensitivity for that not to be dispersed to the council.
Okay,
Also
thank you.
with that, I was wondering, we have a 2-minute limitation on speaking. Do we have a word limitation on the written so that we're not having 10 pages of things to read through on public comment? I would like us to have a word limit that would be associated with 2
There
minutes.
will be
of speaking.
discretion as to whether it's attached or not. And less words will increase the probability of it being attached to
Well,
the
it does make
minutes.
it very difficult for us to read all of our required materials, and then if we get these long discourses, it doesn't lend itself to the same impact that a person who has 2 minutes here. I think to make it fair, we should limit it to in words as well as in time in person.
And per it being attached to, say, the public record, that will also come under discretion, right? It's simply because you submitted something versus, Sherry and Diana show up often and come and join us for our public comment. Those are part of the public record.
Right.
And I want to favor that sacrifice here versus being able to submit stuff just willy-nilly, or, even sometimes it's very thoughtful and sometimes it will make sense and then I will feel it makes sense, or you guys can outvote me to make sure that it's on. So if I veto something that I've disseminated to each of you and, 2 of you, just like any agenda item, you feel you want it on the public record, that would be put on the public record.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we always have the transparency and a set of checks and balances. So it will be, though, under discretion.
Google just told me that 300 words is about a 2-minute discussion. So
There you go.
if we decide to go that way. So,
And if I get into like city council moving verbiage, you can probably jump into 6. Perfect. Okay. We are then jumping number 4, unless there's any other questions. Perfect. So what I wanted to do also, if people haven't noticed, I am striving to increase the amount of transparency, that my statement's not a statement that others have not been. This is just kind of my personal style imposed on the budget here. I wanted to go over a little bit of what that time frame will look like. And I meant to pull that up and I have failed that. But just to kind of start, Chris, do you by chance have that document that you can quickly pull up while I talk here instead of me stopping to
Or
pull it up?
Jody,
I can get it.
Or Jody? It's the one you and I.
the timeline.
Let me look at it for you here.
That timeline is going to look somewhat, while they pull that up to give us dates, I just want to go over kind of what the process is and what that change will look like for each of you. So in the near council meeting, each staff member who has any authority over a budget will be showing up during a council meeting and presenting each of the different items that they are requesting with the dollar amount associated with it.
And that's what you're talking about the public hearing next time?
No, public hearing we're adjusting the budget.
But these are not fixed costs. These are extra things that are.
So these are variable costs. So Chris and I are going to work on all fixed costs. So that'll be bond payments. That'll be utilities for city operations. Anything that we really don't have a choice on whether we pay or not because those choices were already made in a previous point or previous council meeting.
It's in your email.
Thank you, Jody. Maybe if my email will work. There we go. Okay, thank you. And so what we're going to end up doing here, so that will be on the 24th of March is when we're going to start the budget process. So that'll be the second council meeting in March. And each of them are going to bring their, what I'm calling variable costs, or any of the items that they feel, and I've requested them to be very broad in their requests. So for example, the mat that is at the front entrance of our city that currently is covered in duct tape and is missing the letter A, I have requested that Jody put that on her budget to replace that. For instance, that's a $500 mat, right? So we might not look as hillbilly as a city. But those are the types of things, right? What would it look like to repaint this building? What would it look like for new carpet? And I want you guys then to be able to, as the city council, to have the options to be able to prioritize each potential item. And we will go through each different department, they will present it, and we're going to go through on a spreadsheet here on the screen and start allocating and watch the available funds diminish until we hit zero. And then we can kind of continue to massage those numbers until you five feel that makes sense, right? Those excess items that are no longer, that didn't make the cut, will then be held in reserve and documented so that when we ever have, say, Ted doing a road project of $200,000 and it comes in at, say, 180, instead, that opens up $20,000. Those 20,000 will then be, you guys will go through the same process again. We'll open the budget back up if it's required, because a budgetary opening only is needed if it's headed from one clump of the budget to another. So if we reallocate it, say, in Ted's own budgets, then it won't require an opening of the budget. However, you guys will then be able to select another item on the list, pull it in, and that will then help us dictate the priorities of the city financially, right? Then the executive on our side with the staff will then be able to make those things happen, okay? So that's kind of that process. Starting again, like I said, on March 24th, we are then going to budget funding variable costs, okay, associated with those. So then on April 1st or so, we were going to send your guys's that spreadsheet that we worked on over to the finance committee so that we can then get another set of eyes, opinions on that information. We will then try and make sure we can get that budget back to hold a public hearing on the 12th of May to then be able to figure out whether, and we'll probably know sooner than that, but after it goes through the finance committee and back to you guys, I will present the mayor's budget, which will be a collaboration of the three bodies on the 12th of May, yes. And then on the 26th of May agenda, we will approve or disapprove the budget and figure out whether we need to adjust the tax rate or not. That will then give us both council meetings in June to finalize if needed and not be rushed by time frames or calendar items.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
That is the goal.
That is
always.
the goal. Any questions on that?
So the next fiscal year budget has to be approved, signed off on by
June,
June
First of
30th.
June.
Yep.
middle of June.
Is it middle of June?
They're looking, that's part of some legislation of changing the dates, but it wouldn't apply for this year, it would be next year. So we'll keep an eye on that one, but this is a good timeline that we can get in there and then by the time we get the certified tax rate from the county, which is usually about the second week of June, then at our council meeting, we approve it, our budget based on that, and that determines on if we need a truth in taxation in August.
Yeah, we kind of have to do our best guess of what it's going to look like, right? And then, because we don't know, that whole process, we don't know what the tax rate's gonna be.
Yeah, so we have to approve everything prior to knowing what the tax rate's gonna be.
Fun.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes we say, we better open it up in case we need a truth in taxation, but like last year, we said, okay, we don't need to do it after all. We didn't change anything.
Gotcha.
And we were going to increase it for our roads, but then we figured it out, so
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to.
Yeah, Brian, Dan, any questions on that?
Nope.
Nothing?
Nope.
Perfect. Okay. Then let's move to number 5. This one actually won't be me. This will be Chairman Franson.
I do have one
Yeah.
little question. So we will prioritize it before sending it to the financial committee. And then if they have recommendations, are we going to have another chance to readjust our priorities based
So
on if they
that will
have
then come,
anything?
that'll come to me. And
Okay,
I will kind of then assess with the staff as to what we feel. We will document that variance, that delta between what you presented to the finance committee and what the finance committee then recommended to myself and the staff. And then I'll present the mayor's budget with the differences. And then you guys will be able to or decide whether you want it to be re-put back to the way you sent it back to the finance committee per
Okay.
their recommendations.
so between the 10th and the 26th is when we will look at whatever you present and choose if we're going to accept that or if we want to reprioritize.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. Perfect. Okay, Wayne.
You, I think, got sent today, a digital copy of this having to do with it's an update on the, post, our city postal boxes.
So big and bulky.
Yeah. You got, oh, you okay?
Yeah, I didn't get a copy of this that I'm aware of.
It came in our
On the
email.
big long. that we just-
Yeah, it's there, you have to open all the attachments, they don't all open, I just had to do that.
I know, I had to go in a
It
different way
looks
to
like you
open
only
mine.
have like 3 or 4
Steve,
attachments.
our goal is to just keep you guessing.
Sweet.
You have to scroll down to see it.
And this is enough to give you a taste a little bit.
Oh, tickle.
City staff has been working a lot together as well as with the mayor and Three Bridges group. They've assigned an individual to kind of oversee this project. And it's still a work in progress. But we're still trying to determine what we like as a final design for the mailbox facility. There's been a number of suggestions made. And I will say that Three Bridges is concerned with the cost and so forth, as they should be, as are we. So this is just a little bit of a mock-up there on the first page. It's again a work in process, so this is not finalized by any stretch, but
did they consider at all just the ambiance of our city?
Yeah,
It's- it
thank
doesn't
you,
really-
teacher.
it
This
doesn't
is
really
very
look
functional,
like-
but very plain.
I brought that to their attention today,
No,
that it is the
quality of
front,
life.
it is the gateway to our city coming in.
Yeah,
Ours right now, it's just, it looks mountainy, you know,
this
you
looks
have
like a
the,
public works
the
building.
crossbar, whatever, and we can hang the wreath up there. It just
High-end
looks,
salt shed.
I think it looks like, yeah, the salt shed or
this looks like the
Yeah.
post office.
Now, if you look closely, it's hard, there's across the top, under the roof, there is a timber there. And
There's one little piece of
No,
wood
just-
someplace in there.
It's hard to see from the rendering, kind of what the,
It just looks very
architectural look, but
It looks like a public
functional. It
works
looks
building.
functional.
so maybe just that we're trying to combine functionality with ambiance. So, for example, a slope that pitches all one direction has all the snow sliding off the back. So it's
See,
not sliding off the
functional.
front.
It's functional.
Right.
Wait a minute, but we have to manage that.
As long as it goes off the backside, it's out of our way, right? So it's not sliding off in front of the mailboxes.
And nobody drives behind it, so,
Nobody drives behind it because it'll be backed against the lot, so.
but it's
we're
still
trying to
ugly.
Combine functionality with.
Can we get like,
I think
We
what
also
we,
have to consider our WUI code when we're having this thing built.
Yeah,
And also the enclosure to keep birds and bees.
that was my other question. Will this keep the sparrows away?
Yeah.
Is that something you guys are looking at?
Working towards.
So we realize it's a change from our current mailboxes, but those ones do create issues for us that we're trying to solve while keeping the same sort of ambiance.
I have a question too,
This one
then,
doesn't
with regards
have
to that.
ambiance.
Because we have our law enforcement in the city here, I am concerned with if you're at night and walking in there, we are gonna talk about lighting ordinances and everything
Are
else
we gonna get
tonight.
mugged?
But if you're walking and yours is in the very back and you're a single woman and you're walking to the very back of one of those things, you don't know who's in there or who's gonna come behind you and you would be trapped. There's no way out if someone followed you in. And that, I think, is a concern, especially for people who might send their kids down to get their mail or whatever. It doesn't lend itself to looking safe.
The front of the building, as you can see, there's some ink marks across the bottom. That is designed to be a kind of a retaining wall with rocks in it, similar to maybe what we have down there now with the posts on the corner. And the upper part of that will be glass. So that's across the front, there'll be glass enclosures. And then a door, probably on the right side there, a doorway, I should say, not locking it in there.
I hear you scream.
The idea is that we want to try to keep it as clean as we can and low maintenance. And yet, in the daytime, there would be light coming through the windows. At nighttime, the interior will be lit of the facility.
Will it be dark sky?
hey, silence you. Wayne, please carry on.
Thank you. Then let me go on, the next page, it kind of shows you the configuration of where where the boxes will be. And this is both to facilitate the delivery of the mail by the carrier. The idea is they'll have a cart that they'll be putting already sorted mail. It already comes sorted from the post office. So there will not be any need to sort it here. They will come and then put it on the cart from the truck and go up and down the aisles then, already having been sorted, and place it then in these boxes. These boxes are front loaded. So the very last page of this, it shows you, it's a rather dark picture, but that's what each mail panel will look like. And each person will have a key then to their own mailbox. These boxes are 16 and a half inches deep. And so they're a little different configuration. They should be able to get flat mail without wadding it up or curling it up or whatever.
Which is
And at the-
nice,
Pardon?
which is nice.
Yes. And at the bottom of each of these inserts, there's a postal box, there's 2 postal boxes. So
The parcel
every-
boxes.
The parcel boxes,
Yeah.
correct. So every insert will have 2 parcel boxes. We're looking at 120 parcel boxes.
So that'll be more than we have now,
It
right?
is, yes.
Okay.
So you shouldn't have to, if your box, your postal box is on the far right, then your package is most likely going to be very close. You're not gonna have to walk all the way around to try to.
Possibly, depends on
find.
how many getting mail in that group.
Mhm.
That's,
Are there some oversized parcel boxes too? Because these ones are,
we're looking at that now. Where we might transpose some of the existing parcel boxes that we have
okay.
down there and put them somewhere in the facility as well.
And so are you, this little add-on, are you proposing a cupboard for the postal workers? Is that what you're hoping
And
to
where's the
do?
bathroom?
No, they've said, well, let me say, the
Yeah, the
postmaster
bathroom.
has said that they don't need a cupboard or they don't need a separate room or a table. They'll have a cart, they can put the mail on. They were emphatic that they don't want the mail carrier to have to be cleaning anything there. And she does a little bit of that now. So in some of this, we're trying to merge what the postmaster wants and what the mail carrier has indicated that would be good to have. So we're kind of going through that process now a little bit.
So is Three Bridges concerned about the cost of this one?
Yes.
And if they are, I would
It's all
say,
enclosed.
And that's a problem.
That's a big expense. And so we're working through that. They're putting another rendition together that has it all enclosed with some money calculations. And so we can better see where we're at with them, if we're over, under, okay, as we continue to go forward with the design.
Their initial estimate, I thought, was a pretty reasonable one, so we're looking at, they were estimating about 200 square foot, a 1,300 square foot structure, so I mean, for a mailbox, that's not bad.
yeah. What cost did they give us as far as, I mean, is there an allowance or a number?
No, they just said their budget on their side, now obviously this is not our budget, but what they threw out was 200 square foot on a 1,300 square foot building, so that's what, 260,000?
Oh, yeah.
Not
gotcha.
counting the mailboxes.
Gotcha, yeah.
That's just the building itself.
So you can see, you run your numbers there,
Is
Steve.
that
It's
worth
free.
the road?
It's a decent
Oh,
amount.
That's
it's
not
not
the site.
even,
That doesn't include the site work, it's just the building itself, no mailboxes.
that's not even 1% of what they're gonna get with the road.
So it's reasonable, I think, for a mailbox structure. I mean,
And is there a
house is
bathroom
200.
for the postal worker? Because I thought that was one of the things that.
That's one of the things she wanted, but it was the decision made not to put a bathroom there.
So a house is what, 270, 300 square foot, so it's.
Yeah, I mean, I'm building houses right now for $150 a square
Yeah,
foot,
so
so,
I think what they're offering is not.
yeah, it's
'Cause
not out of line.
It
for
had
sure.
been requested that we do one like Summit Creek that was all enclosed.
And look nice.
And a lot of citizens want that, but that's probably not in our budget.
It probably outside the budget to,
This isn't far, I mean, it's a bigger facility, because they're pretty small, right?
Right, but just the
It's a
idea of it being
yes.
locked, because the security concerns.
Yeah, to give you guys an idea, Summit Creeks has 5 boxes in it.
Right, but it looks pretty.
That's true.
And it's locked and you can get inside and
They
it's
have
secure.
5
Basically a door,
of these.
it's got some windows, it's got. a
Ours has how many?
And a.
120.
Yes.
and we've asked them to give greater attention to the timber frame look. So I'm interested to see what they come back with. What they will have done to that to give it more of a mountain
I want
kind of
the-
look.
Pitched, I want the, yeah. I want a gable.
It is the entrance to our city. I think
Ted
that
says
should
no.
be taken into
You're gonna
consideration.
have all the snow, it's a metal roof, right? So then you're gonna have all the snow sliding right in front of all the mailbox entrances.
It's also the entrance to their community.
Precisely. That's one of the things that they need to understand, that a lot of people, they're expecting a lot to drive up to the circle and enter their community from that entrance. And that is going to be the entrance to their community as well. It's going to be more of an entrance than their bridge is. That's what people are going to see when they pull up in there. They need to understand that they're going to have to put an investment in there because of the high-end houses and high-end communities that they're building.
So Wayne, what I'm hearing is we need to give Lori and Jody more design control.
Amen.
Done.
Jody did an interesting design that is quite appealing. It's all glass around, which may need to be modified a little bit, but I'm
We can make it
interested to
happen.
see what they come back with this, with some changes to it.
Can you address the safety concerns that, I mean, I really feel that a lot of the women pick up the mail. And
What would you do to address that though?
that's what I'm looking at. I don't know, just at this point, because I mean, we're just seeing it today, so, or yesterday we saw it originally.
Fully enclosed and your key, you have a little fob or something to get in.
Yeah, but
Well,
somebody
now
can't
we're
just
really-
follow you in, though.
So what we can do is we can put a lot of signage, right? And let people
Lighting.
understand that it is under full 24/7
I
surveillance.
was gonna say, it's gonna have cameras.
It already does,
Well,
and it will, right?
But-
It's also it'll be a full glass frontage and the whole thing will be lit. So it'll be like a fishbowl. Hiding inside would be extremely difficult. And I think, but we should, as we take a look at this further, let's keep that in mind. That's security insight. And I think we're secure. I think what we need to make sure is people feel safe. Being safe and feeling safe are always not synonyms, so let's keep an eye on that. Wayne,
That's
could
one
you?
reason that the front, we've asked to be only 4 feet. So it's not 5 feet that somebody could kind of crouch down and wait behind there. It's only 4 feet, so somebody can walk along the front, look into each of those windows and see if somebody's in there or not. If they want to wait till that person comes out before they go in. But we have not planned for a lock on, it's a doorway, it's not a door. But we can, if there's interest in making a locked door for that individual one by one or group or whatever go in, we can certainly look at that. And I'm really interested in all of your thoughts on this because they carry weight.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think where Carrie's coming from is it's not the same world that we grew up in. It's just a scarier place these days and you hear horrible things all the time. So I think we do have a duty.
And where there's gonna be more people that aren't residents of our city coming through there, not that we don't trust them, but it is projected to be
There'll be a
a
lot more
higher
people
traffic
around.
area. And more people around, and we only have a 3/4 deputy.
Okay,
There's a
to
sign.
Ted's question, what would you suggest?
Well, we're gonna have to think about what the
Okay.
suggestions would be, I mean, cause you can't just think of them just because
Well,
you're looking at
The
the picture,
rendering's probably
but
a little misleading. They're not as deep as it looks in there.
yeah, cause it looks like a public works building that
I
you would.
think what
go to the
Carrie's point is maybe they're not, maybe it's open, like, so you know how you have these ones going inside this way and then you have a back road? Maybe there's a breezeway here so that if you go down here and somebody follows you, you can go into another aisle or something. Does that make sense?
And that
Kinda.
presents also the threat.
Yeah, somebody was
A
hiding.
lot of.
So if you disconnected right here,
Yeah, that
Then you
creates
would-
hiding spots.
could you possibly escape, have an escape route?
Then we gotta hang mirrors and all sorts of things.
Do we have one of those things like they have on college campuses where you could push the button?
A siren.
Panic button,
buttons.
Panic.
Panic button.
set the siren off.
Oh, no. No.
My,
Back to the point, people send their kids and then
Yeah.
that siren's going off every day.
Only if you send your boys.
I have a panic button on my desk. It's been pushed. Rich came one time and he was like, what's this button? And he pushed it. And it's not from me, it was from a prior employee. But yeah, we had to put like tape over it.
So looking at this, it looks like the glass or the entry would be facing north right now. When we were looking at some of the
Well, the
concepts.
entry face south,
South.
southwest.
Okay, I'm just looking, maybe this is maybe our orientation is just off on here.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so which way is the people?
they
which
actually
people come out?
don't, the architect currently doesn't know where this sits on the.
Okay, so
site,
he's.
So we don't
he's
have a
just put
site map
yes.
yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic.
site map would be helpful.
But it'll be facing, I believe, facing the
Facing
roundabout, right?
Okay.
Don't know for sure yet. We're waiting on the county to finish the roundabout design. How the entrance will happen into our
Okay,
area before we can figure out how to configure it on site.
But it won't be going north. It won't be facing north, per se.
Yeah, it won't be facing the north.
so if this is the building we have to have, then I want a great big bronze elk out front on a mound for decoration.
On top of
In the
it.
roundabout?
Either in the roundabout or right in front of the mailbox to make it prettier. That's my request.
So a couple things,
Get enough money out of the savings we could
Yeah.
put now.
a couple things.
From our residents.
From my
who make some-
perspective is, I know we want to accommodate the male folks and whatever, but if we're gonna be on a limited budget, I'd rather spruce the facility up and be a little selfish, make it nicer for us, because let's face it, male folks, like, I'm half tempted to put a dog in there just so they have the full experience, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think they need to park in a covered area. I'd rather put those funds toward us, I guess is what I'm saying.
Or
You know what
The
I'm saying?
male person?
Yeah,
male carrier?
Yeah.
Or
so-
make it more of just a,
I don't think they need a separate entrance. I don't think they need covered parking. I don't think they need any of that stuff.
Just to explain a little bit of the idea behind that.
Yeah.
She comes in a truck and all the mail is open in boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And she has to move the mail in from her truck into the post office.
Yes.
We've gotten complaints quite often about wet mail.
Okay.
And so the idea behind the covered is that the mail would be completely covered from the environment as she goes into the facility to
Side
distribute the mail. So that's the purpose for a covered truck for her to go into, to protect from the environment.
Can we buy her an umbrella?
Not
I
to
mean-
carry boxes,
You know, yeah.
but that's the
Yeah,
purpose.
that makes sense. It seems like it's a very expensive thing to check one little box, and sure, we want dry mail, but it should be the postmaster's responsibility to make sure that we've got dry mail, you know,
well,
if there's
she
sensitive
she
letters.
has a back room right now that she can go in with a table and she can sort. So right now she carries it all into a back room and we're taking that away
Yeah,
with
well,
this design.
He's right. When they drive to the community stack of boxes, it's all, they're in the air.
yeah, I mean, we could even put a little table for her right up front there that she can do her thing. I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but what I'm saying is, if we're gonna get the most value, I don't wanna cater to one postmaster or post office associate who wants all these things. I would much rather put the value into what the residents get, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Wonderful. Wayne, can you give us a little bit of your thought on our current plan
Yeah,
for the
that was
temporary
going
situation? Perfect, thank you.
We're going to be, they're not gonna be able to build a new post office facility while they're working on the roundabout down there with all the congestion and traffic and whatnot. So the plan is, we're going to put a container here at the city center, one we have, and there's sufficient room to put the inserts down each side of the container, as well as some additional parcel boxes in that container. It will be lit. It will be open 24 hours a day. We'll build a ramp up to it. It'll sit on the ground, but it might be that much, and we're putting a ramp to it, so it's ADA accessible. And we'll have rails on the side of that ramp and a shade environmental cover at the top for rain and so forth. Somebody gets out of their car to go in there, so it keeps the water out of that end of the container. We anticipate having that in place up to 3 months, possibly. So we don't have any disruption in delivery. The postal mail carrier will come and organize, we'll put these inserts in there. Then we'll need to have a frame structure inside where these inserts will fit then in that on both sides. And then we'll receive mail there. And then when we're through with that, they will mark, they will label all of the boxes inside. And the plan is in those boxes will come out of that container. They'll already be marked with people's names on them, and they will go into this new mail facility then. We'll have sufficient, plus more boxes. These are just to cover what we have now for the residents. But additional boxes will go in as new residents come, then those will be labeled for them to use there.
So it'll be like a shipping container that will be
Yes.
here in the parking lot.
Correct,
And people will go in and it will have the same amount of boxes that we currently have.
correct.
And people will have their name on them.
But not as many parcel boxes as we currently have.
Probably, you're right.
Relocate some of the parcel boxes that are down there up to here and.
But probably not all of them. They probably won't all fit, right?
But if we see that there's a problem, we'll work through that. Because those are bolted to the,
But I mean, that's a small sacrifice for a couple of months to make.
it is. And if we don't have room here, like everything else, it'll be held at the post office and people will have a paper to go down and get the parcel at the post office.
Leave work in PG and drive over before they
Yeah.
close.
I was gonna say during work hours makes it tough for some people.
Yeah,
Can I just say one quick thing? Can we please keep our numbers? I don't want my name on my mailbox.
Yeah. I was
It
gonna
won't
just
be
say-
names.
It won't be names and we won't. be able
inside
to
will be
keep
labeled for the
Hearing names.
postal
We
lady to
won't have the
see.
same numbers. That'll be impossible.
But you will get new numbers.
That's my address.
You'll have your same address, so if there's a label on it that'll have your address, yeah, that'll be
Just
still the
one
same.
71.
But it won't be Burger. You'll be fine that way.
Thank you.
So any other questions or thoughts?
And are we going to do, last time Ted presented to us a parking and a flow of one-way traffic coming in and a way to get out better and not be in front of the fire trucks, et cetera. Are we going to be doing that as part of this
For
temporary?
the temporary,
Uh,
a one-way.
if we need it, I don't know that we'll need it. With it being up here and kind of a little bit out of the way, but it'll be right in front of the door, going out here. But if we need to do that, we'll do it.
And the voting camera actually will be shining on the entrance of this container as well.
Because the
So-
entrance will be facing the city center.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it will all be surveyed as well.
So you'll just utilize the sidewalk basically. Okay.
And there will be lighting on the inside of this container as
Yes.
well?
Yes, well, let me add a little bit. The county is looking at changing some of the traffic direction at the traffic circle relative to the mailbox. Mail down there. They're currently looking at a design that runs the road to access to the mail facility on the north side of the traffic circle on the the east side of the road. So instead of driving back towards Three Bridges, we'll drive parallel a little bit and the road will be elevated parallel a little bit to north on Woodland Hills Drive and then up into the mailboxes. And then mailboxes and then come out on where we were going to drive in before.
So it's a right turn.
Correct.
That'll be better.
So that will facilitate getting into the mailboxes and not have a lineup of cars there that are waiting for cross traffic to come.
And the flow will be better.
Yeah. So that's the plan. Ted, do you want to enlarge on that or?
He's talking to Sherry.
Ted,
Sorry.
right turn. You want to talk about that to the
Yeah.
mailboxes?
Yeah, so the last meeting I had with the county, the proposal of getting in and out of the mailbox is obviously that crossing the lanes, when traffic's coming out Three Bridges is a huge safety concern for the engineers there, and rightfully so. So what they're talking about doing is you actually go through, if you're going down to the mailboxes, coming down to the mailboxes, you go through the roundabout, and then there'll be a lane that will go right. There'll be like a straight through lane, and then one lane will veer off to the right, and we'll go into the mailboxes. And then there'll be a right out on the lane coming out of Three Bridges. So you go right out and back around the roundabout, up the hill. Now, if you're coming up the hill into the city, you'll have to go around the roundabout and then go in.
Like we do now.
Then come back. So it's a lot the same as what we do now, generally. But that way it's a right in, right out only. And I think that prevents people from crossing traffic. And
I like that.
So generally, the county was okay with us wanting to have it here. They weren't thrilled, right?
yeah, they're, I mean, because just obviously the safety issue, the growth plans for the whole area, what the county is looking at is independent of, well, includes Three Bridges, but they're looking at the county as a whole for growth, right? So their concern was a lot of the traffic impacts in the future, but this right in, right out was a solution that we thought would make it the safest down there. I mean, obviously their preference would be to move it into our city. Well, that is in our city, but move it away from the roundabout, which is a county facility, and into our city, but they weren't going to say no if we wanted to keep it there. So they'll work with it, and we'll make it as safe as we can.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay.
Very good. I would appreciate your thoughts and comments on what is good or bad about this. And
I think it's very functional. I think the function is good, but I want more aesthetic.
okay.
Steve, especially you, if you've got any thoughts on design ideas, if you can pencil something and throw it at us,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
I'm thinking of a few things too.
Very good. Thank you.
We'll need to move on that sooner than later, but.
Yeah.
But it is coming along.
It is.
It's progressing. It's progressed a lot since we met last.
And this isn't the first rendition.
This is the
3 or
Oh.
4 along.
If this is the better one, is what he's saying.
It's not that bad. I'm just saying, I just don't want it to be ugly.
Put lipstick on a pig.
Yes, I'm fine with the
Lipstick on
function of it.
sauce.
I want it to be
I understand. And I think we all. feel that
mountain
way.
estates, Woodland Hills.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just, right now you have the roundabout, the flags, you have the mailbox and the church. It's kind of the iconic entry to our city. Like, it's just, you just know that, oh, Woodland
It
Hills.
keeps it Hallmark.
Yeah, and so,
This doesn't keep it Hallmark.
yeah, that's my point. I hate change. I hate to lose the charm.
Yeah. Charm, I like that.
It's the charm. I want the
I
charm.
like the charm.
Good.
Okay. Then Dan and Brian, if you're good, we'll move on.
Dan's been really quiet. Dan, are you there?
I am here. I am here.
He is not even in the nation here, so we're glad to have him.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Where are you, Dan?
I'm in Brazil.
Okay.
Okay, number 6, discussion proposal to amend City Code 10-8-10 lighting. This is a carryover from January 27th and February 10th meetings. Councilmember Lunt.
So, for some reason, this has been a super hot topic, and there's a lot of opinions, and they're all different, and it's hard to come to a meeting in the middle. And I wanted to propose that we look at this again, and the mayor's made a suggestion for a change. And then there were some things we took out. We had a limitation on holiday lighting that has since been removed. I don't want to look at this again as an end all be all. I think that some of the discussion that we were having is going to take more time and more research. But the basic one that we have here has been reviewed based on some dark sky or night sky improvements that we wanted. Also new technology with the lighting, with the LED lights, and it's just changed our current ordinance. We've had it forever and it's worked fine. It's worked fine. But we're trying to I know that Dan had expressed concerns about, we have all these different elevations and lights shining into neighbors' yards. And so I really liked the mayor's proposed language because I think that that addresses that a little bit. I mean, is this perfect? No. And it's very basic. And it could be changed at any time. As you know, we are always amending our ordinances and changing them. But I guess I wanted to ask or get people's thoughts. Like I say, we can always change it more in the future. We can make it more. I'm hesitant to make it too restrictive because somebody has to enforce that. And most of the people, I am one, we moved up to Woodland Hills to kind of be left alone. And I am less of the enforcement type mindset. I think we should have the ordinances in place and the rules, and we as citizens have a duty to follow those. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but I would like to, I mean, again, I guess we're going back to my vision of Hallmark community, but we should all just do our best to follow them. And I know there's people that aren't gonna do that. But I don't want Wayne to be out at night driving the city streets, checking lighting and writing tickets, so to speak. So without getting too restrictive, this is just updating our current one a little bit and just amending it.
Now, there was a proposal that, I mean, this one talked about lumens. There was the proposal to add Kelvin measurements to it.
Personally,
And I'm
I
just
have no
wondering
appetite for that.
if that is something that we're thinking of, if we're not. The difference is, I mean, I understand that, what the difference is there on the type of light that comes out, right? Compared to just bright light. Yeah. Oh, you have
So
a,
I understand Kelvin
right.
very well.
But I mean,
And
I'm
not
thinking it's
opposed
like
to it. I
people who,
understand the light, animals, all of that.
Yeah.
For me, my concern is enforcement.
right,
Is how do I run around and does Wayne and I now need to have some sort of meter? Keep your notes. We'll go to the public comment.
well, I guess what I'm saying is, it's kind of an individual thing, right? So when we have the lumens on there, I mean, it's like when you get your Christmas tree, do you want the bright lights or do you want the warm lights? And everybody goes through that. And I think this is the same kind of discussion as people are having on, I want to pick what I like for the whole city instead of letting you pick what you want for your house and I choose what I want for my house, as long as it's within this lumen and that it's not unnecessarily going to my neighbors. And that's our whole intent of what we want to do.
100%. And that's why I'm thinking is once we go down like a Kelvin, right? Which I understand. I understand the animal side. I understand the blue. It's the enforcement side that I'm looking at is when you're dealing with somebody, so we get a complaint from somebody about their neighbor, we have to then decide, what are we going to do with that complaint? We've got to decide, okay, are we going to discuss this, issue a complaint, or follow up with that complaint, issue a violation or whatever? And when it comes to, say, Kelvin, now we have to sit there and say, okay, where is the line and how do we define it? Because once you jump because 3,000 and below are warm, I get it, right? Once you breach the 3,000, it goes cool, right? And once you then get really close to that 3,000, now it's a fighting match. It's an opinion play, right? No, it is 3,000. No, it's 35. No, it's. And that is,
3004.
so now we have to sit there and say, okay, how do we read it? So now we need a sensor that can read the Kelvin, right? Or we have a diagram, we have to say, well, okay. I don't want to be pitting neighbors against neighbors, right? And Wayne, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as the enforcement officer. But as the executive over the enforcement, that is my concern, is the weaponization of Kelvin.
I think the lumens are pretty clear on what people then would look for in their lighting.
It's
And
easy to measure that.
Easy to measure because it's on the box of whatever light you're buying.
Kelvin is also,
Um,
Kelvin is on your light bulb and on the fixture. It's all labeled now.
But I do understand that difference in enforcement because it's hard to enforce things on, because we are such a large geographic space in between each home. And how far does it get from one person to the next? Some of you are closer than others, depending on the HOA or the development agreement at the time.
Or above or
Or
below.
The hillside development. I mean, my neighbors who have little kids, they came over after the snow and said, can you turn on all your lights? Our kids want to sled as long as possible in case it melts. And so I turned on all my outside lights so they could see what they were doing. Now, I don't think it bothered anybody else, and the deer still stayed under the deck. But I just think that you're right, that we don't want to limit people in such a way that we get to have people who are intentionally looking for a violation of their neighbors. And we have that on other ordinances, and this, if it's not as clear, it makes it harder for those who intentionally look for violations of their neighbors, which we don't want them to become the unofficial code enforcers, because we have a code enforcer.
And again, I don't have a vote, so you guys do what you want, but that's just my thoughts.
It can always be amended. Technology is going to change. We change our ordinances all the time. I'm just trying to, we are coming into a big building season where there's going to be a lot more construction. Rates are going down. I'm seeing a huge uptick in business. It's going to get busier, and so I would like to update our lighting ordinance at least a little bit, and then we can look at it more moving forward.
Well, both.
And I want to
Steve and
improve it
Dan
a little bit if we can.
brought stuff to us last time, some notes they had. And I don't know if we want to consider any of the things that they suggested or talk about those types of things, or if you're asking to approve this generic, just change the lumen thing and then have an
Yes.
additional maybe update with some of their suggestions in the
Yes,
future.
that's the suggestion, is
Okay.
to not disregard all of that hard work that was done and suggestions, but just to update it a little bit, and then we can take the time to look at those other things.
Yeah, so, I mean, let's throw the past away, because everybody's been working hard on this, right? I mean, and some people more than others. It sounds like Wayne and Sherry have been in an arm wrestle for a couple of years about this, and that's fair. What are we trying to achieve? I mean, that's what we really need to ask ourselves. What are we trying to achieve? We don't want to have an over-regulating ordinance. I think everybody agrees with that, right? We also want to be prudent. We want to educate. Yeah, we've put some time into it. There are some things that are really good. There are some things that are really bad. We have a 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got basically a 11 item lighting ordinance right now, 11 line items, okay? And I'm just gonna take the liberty to read that right now so everybody knows. 10.8.10, lighting. Any light source which exceeds 1,200 lumens, about a 100 watt incandescent bulb or equivalent, must have its light source shielded such that A, the lighting element itself is not visible outside of the lot. It is on 100 watt incandescent bulb or equivalent, and B, the lighting element is not shining directly on any vertical surface such as a wall, 100 watt incandescent bulb or equivalent. No, this says that a resident must shield their lights if they are brighter than 75 watts. The city restricts all lighting greater than 75 watts unless lighting is installed for security purposes on any city-owned property. And then there are 4 notes. One, and basically it's a lumen to watt conversion schedule, which in my opinion has no place in our code in the first place. So we're talking about these lighting things, and you know, we're asking to say, okay, well, we don't want to over restrict, but we want to protect our night skies. And so we're calling out a few very specific things. And I agree, I'm not about perfection in place of progress, but what I am in favor of is this ordinance was 1993. This is almost 33 years old. So we want to pretend that we'll update this and all this other stuff. We're on the brink of this, and I don't want to be talking about lighting every GD, pardon my French, every GD city council meeting. I want to come to a consensus, even if it's a couple more months of saying, hey, what do we all want to get out of this, and how do we come to an agreement on it? Because we can keep talking about line items, but what's been presented, the new proposal is no better. Yes, it's got some more clarity on schedules, but why do we keep a lumen schedule in our code? Why are we restricting people from having up lighting? Because now all of a sudden we do have more enforcement opportunity. We do have more risk. So that's kind of my position on that right now. So
I did have another question too. In our explanation in our packet, it talked about that, no, this won't affect holiday lighting or seasonal lighting, and yet it's not in the ordinance saying that. And so I think we have people who have holiday lighting up year round now, because there's
It's on my road.
yeah, it's on to my road too.
hate it.
I hate it.
so-
It's too much.
And so,
It's
and if
obnoxious.
it's plain, or if it's the lights that twist and turn and.
I love it at Halloween. Because he goes all out for Halloween, but it's too much the rest of the year.
But we just finished the blue lights for January, the red and pink lights for February. Now we're gonna start the green lights.
But people have
and then-
invested a lot of money in that lighting,
They
and you
do
can't
invest
tell
a
them
lot
that
of money.
you can't tell them that they can only use it once a year.
But that's what I'm saying, is that this doesn't address that's acceptable, or holiday lighting in general is accepted. And yet we got a note that said, this doesn't,
We took that section out, is what we said.
yeah.
That's what the note
And
said.
yet, if
It
someone
was
just read
restricting
this,
by certain
but if
dates.
somebody just read this, it talks about temporary lighting, but it does not address holiday lighting. And this could be another thing that neighbors would say, hey, you're only supposed to have this. And now, because holiday lighting isn't downcast, it's going out everywhere, and it's bright.
It doesn't leave the lot generally.
I guess if it's
If it's
red,
on
white,
the
and blue in the
house,
summer, and it's flashing, and it looks like a cop car outside your house, and it's really not, it doesn't leave their yard, but you can still see it through the trees.
What is holiday lighting?
Right.
That's an issue, but if it's not addressed, then it's okay. The ordinance is designed to restrict certain things. And if something is not included in an ordinance, then the presumption is it's okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
All
so,
ordinances are written in that way.
so whether it's a sport court or a pickleball or whatever, we have temporary lighting that talks about that. But it says temporary lighting is 24 hours, but would holiday lighting be considered a temporary lighting? No, not anymore, but it used to be. So I'm just wondering if.
the temporary
people are-
lighting is if you're throwing a wedding in your backyard and you've got it lit up like, you know,
Right, or you're
like
having a concert, or you're having
New York
whatever.
City or whatever, yeah.
But I just think that, we open ourselves up if we don't address holiday lighting and or recreational lighting. If you have a pool or a tennis court or a pickleball court or part of all, if those things aren't addressed, and people will say, well, it's not addressed, so it's okay.
Dan, what do you got?
Sorry, I'm just coughing. I should have been on mute, but no, that's true. I agree. Excuse me. The other things that I think are kind of interesting as I look at it, street lamp. I'm not sure what that means. I think some of the language needs to be more clearly defined without being wordy, right? The best art is simplicity, for clarification. So I do think that there needs to be some wording, and better definition. The other component I have that I'd like to ask Wayne, you've been enforcement, how long have you been enforcement officer, Wayne?
Too long.
Okay. Can you give us an idea as a council, as a city, how often, I have a two-part question. One is the average number of claims you might get in, say, a month, and then the disbursement of those claims. In other words, is this citywide that you're getting complaints or enforcement requests, or is it regulated to specific areas? Just wondering how widespread this really is in terms of enforcement challenge. Not saying that I just want to make sure we're not spending so much time over something that's not as big of an issue in the city as it is now. I mean, just can you give us some clarification on that, just for education for us as a council, and as well as those that might be listening in?
Sure. I've probably been doing code enforcement, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I've gotten 2 complaints in that time on lighting, and they both pertain to monuments on driveways that are at the street, that those lights were too bright. Nothing was said about them being too white or too yellow. They were too bright. And
Like a private street lamp is what you're talking
Yes.
about, that are on the
monuments
Okay.
at the street.
like by the rock, right, and the end of the driveway and
Correct.
right next to the
Yeah.
street. Okay.
And there was some coming up the street, it almost, in one instance, almost looked like a car was coming towards you with the bright lights there at the end, or off the side of the street. The person, we talked to the person, he rolled his eyes and said, okay, I'll change the lights, I'll make them dimmer, which he did. The other one, the lights have been covered up for a while, so I don't know that they're still on or not. They may be. But so those are, we find, I think, generally speaking, and as I ride around the city and look, and I've done that at night, people are changing their garage lights on the outside of their garage doors. They're upgrading them, and you see that over at Summer Creek as well as in other parts of the city. I've gotten no complaints about those, and I haven't gone to see how light they are. We have another issue comes up. You're going on private property to enforce code. That's questionable, whether you can do that or not, without the person's permission to come onto their property and take light readings, which you'd need to do if you're going to enforce it and you think it's too bright. What's too bright? So those kinds of things enter into the picture. And as I mentioned before, all of you can be code enforcers as well. I know you don't want to, and I don't blame you, but the ordinance allows that. So if it's something that you're not willing to do, why are you pushing that on somebody else? So I think we find a lot of people being considerate, and other than a couple of instances, I haven't seen really anything grossly objectionable to the lights on the outside of a person's home.
Okay, great. Thank you for that update.
So with this lighting ordinance, I have a question, because I have, as a lot of people do on my street, I have those, like the cafe lights on the black string, the bulbs,
Yes.
the Edison bulbs, and I can't plow my driveway without them. But would they be out of code, or would they be because they're not
Depends
shielded,
on the lumens.
Not with the new or the old.
because they're the Edison bulbs. But if I don't have those on, and they're on a timer and they're only on for a couple of hours, and a lot of my neighbors have the same thing, because when they saw that I did it, they thought, you know what I mean? Because because it's so dark on my road. I mean, it's dark on everybody's road, but I'm the one who comes home alone at night, and I'm the one that has to plow the driveway, and I have to be able to see, and it's scary. And mine is very, very steep, and it's scary, and I have to have those. And so I'm just saying, like, that's not out of code,
You
right?
know what the lumens are?
I have no idea. I'll go home and look. I have a box
It could be.
somewhere.
Around a 35 watt,
If
something like that.
if they're less than 75 watt, then there's not a problem.
I think they're 60 watt bulbs, but there's a bunch of them.
The problem is if the code gets put in with like so many lumens per acre feet or any volume, or not volume, but area, that's where those kind of lights are going to go way over. So I don't, I think, it all depends on how it's written, right? And this has been, gosh, going, I work on it,
Painful.
right?
This has been painful.
It
Yeah,
has.
but I guess, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep going, Brian. I didn't mean to
You're
cut you off.
okay.
Keep going.
I have zero, beyond zero, less than zero desire to regulate going into Kelvin's. I'm more about property owners' rights, but I also want to maintain our what we have, and but I'm kind of what Steve said. I'm getting really tired of the light discussions over and over and over again, and I know I brought it up multiple times. I don't know what to do. I don't want to keep coming back to this either. But I'm definitely not in favor of Kelvin's. I get all the goodness and everything, and the plants and the animals and everything else, but I am not wanting to make Woodland Hills, California. It's what I don't want to do. It sounds like some people want us to regulate everything to the very end, where I'm not willing to go.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Yep. I also, I feel similar. The other challenge too is the reason I wanted to find out is I am new to the council. I haven't been privy to things in the past. So my primary question to Wayne was to find out how prevalent of a problem we're trying to address with language in legislation. 2 complaints out of 5 years, I would probably say, might be the least complained about thing within the city over a course of a 5-year period. And so, I hear that we've spent almost 2 years or 18 months or all this time on a problem that doesn't appear to be a problem. And the best engineer doesn't try and design best engineers don't try and design solutions to problems that don't exist. So I would suggest that we consider, are we putting too much effort into something? And it's not me because I'm new, Steve and I are new, but you guys have put a lot of effort into something over the course of time that around a problem that doesn't exist in terms of enforcement or complaints about our existing code. I'm in agreement with Steve. We do have an older code. It's been sitting for a long time. There might be some need for refreshing to make it a little bit more current, but I don't think it means that you add additional regulation to that. That's just my opinion.
Well, and I think that the lumens on here do help clarify and bring it up to date.
And I think that was the
And I
intent.
think that's it. And then also the down shielding, if necessary, is on there. And the little picture on there is helpful to people.
It's just trying to update it a little bit is all. It's not trying to add.
Right. But like, for example, the zero uplighting is what it's basically saying. I don't agree with that at all. And then street lights, I need a lot more clarification, a definition of what that is. As we have people who move in and may have some designs for, I don't have any at the end of my street, and I understand the danger of having too bright of lights at the edge of the street. If you're coming up in a dark area, might look, at eye level, could be a challenge, especially if you're coming around a corner, et cetera. But it's a lot of vagary around the last two. The vagary around the streetlight one, but I'm a wholeheartedly against the uplighting being completely eliminated from the city.
The streetlight one is
in landscaping.
Yeah, the streetlight one is because during the campaign, we had someone out there campaigning that they were gonna put sidewalks and streetlights.
Well, actually, it clearly just states here, you cannot erect street lights in the city street. So
But
it's,
the city-
you can't put lights on city property, which is that right of way, which is the front, 12 feet
12 feet.
Depends
from the
on your
street
road.
edge to.
That's perfect. That should be clearly defined in that statute, right? In that language.
And it does say the city streets.
Yeah.
Well, and we should maybe add then. and
I
right
think of
away.
a city street as a street light like that you would see in any other city. So if we can just add some language that's talking about the city right away, something that points them, a developer, a homeowner, a
It says on
landscaper to
city
understand what that
streets.
means exactly, then
The
I'm
city right
fine,
away
then
is
I'm
a
fine
street.
with that.
It's a right of way, but it's still there. And people all the time put their
We're not
landscaping in
gonna
the
do
right of way.
this ever.
So I think it would be helpful to say city street and or city right of way, because we do have people all the time putting their landscaping in the city right
Yeah,
of
but
way.
but I disagree with that because people put their posts with their address in, and sometimes it's in the right of way or close to it at the end of their driveway. And we have a lot of those already in the city. So I don't know that you can say that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry. But can I ask one other thing before I turn it over? I'm still really confused. So the language talks about that any changes would be enforced after the date with which it's signed or whatever gets voted upon. If I, for example, let's suppose that I'm going to change out the bulbs of, say, a garage light or whatever it might be. Am I expected to adhere to that? So, for example, if I had some lighting that may have been out of ordinance when I built the home in 2007, not changing fixtures, but changing bulbs. If I change a bulb, I need to make sure they're to the new ordinance.
Yeah,
Okay. So
I would say so.
I don't know. So that's one of the things that I'm also concerned about. I would suspect that most people who have issues with ordinance enforcement probably see it on another property somewhere within city boundaries. And Wayne's going to get a call, and I'm not saying it's just lighting, it's other things. Fencing can be anything else. And Wayne gets a call and say, hey, you came and gave me a whole bunch of grief about this or that, about an enforcement. I see it happening all over the city. And then Wayne has to say, well, that was actually because that was done before and it's grandfathered in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The lighting one, I think, is a little bit of a concern for me, primarily around if it's just simply me changing a light bulb on my porch light, is now every resident responsible for any change of a bulb on the exterior of their home to fill this, or is it only new?
It doesn't say that in there that they are, right?
Okay.
It doesn't.
That's what I'm wondering.
specifically
I just want to know, I want to understand what we're asking our citizens to review every time they make a decision outside of their walls.
I mean,
So
are
that's-
your bulbs gonna be greater than 75 watts anyway? I mean, outside typically?
I mean, I've got more light violations in this city than anybody if we base it on this stuff. Like, I mean, not to call myself
You're
out,
Little
but I
Vegas
do.
is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you have all the
well, no, but I've got plenty of bright lights and I like my lights and I like to also see the stars. So, but I'm also sensitive to where if any of my neighbors said, hey, Bozo, I'm trying to sleep, turn off your lights, I'm gonna turn off my lights, right? Can we introduce public comment into this a little bit? Cause I know we've got some, I feel like it's appropriate because I know Sherry's very passionate about this. And I want to come to a point where we can get off a stalemate and actually get some work or say, hey, this is what we're gonna live with because we don't want to overregulate this thing.
I'm
Right.
open to,
Because
let's open it up.
as much as I hate to say it, we're gonna double our housing population here in the city over the next handful of years. And we're not gonna be a fraction of the lighting that's brightening the sky from the valley that's happening around us. So yes, it's like saying everybody in Woodland Hills is now gonna be an electric vehicle, so we don't have gas emissions, but we're still breathing all the air of the valley, right? And so,
Right.
not to say again that I'm insensitive to what we're talking about, but we're kind of spit on a skillet. And we're a little bit, you know,
Well, going back to what you asked, what are we trying to achieve, right? We don't want to overregulate, but we want some standards in place so that everybody kind of is on the same page. We don't want to interfere with our neighbor intentionally or unintentionally. And yet at the same time, we also don't want to be tattletales on each other over dumb stuff. And so how do you balance all of that in an ordinance that is beneficial to all? What are we trying to achieve? We're trying to make sure that we have the intent and of our community of what we want it to be. We just talked about that with the mailboxes. We like the ambiance that we have, but we also value safety. Like Janet brought out, if we need to have safety lights, then we should feel like we could do that. And so there is a balance there on how we adjust that. I like this, changing it just from wattage to lumens. I also think though that what Dan said about the street lights, I mean, it's inferred that the city will not put in city street lights. It's inferred there, but it's
It
not
says
necessary.
on city streets.
Right. And so I think that's, I mean, a citizen wouldn't put a light on a city street. So it's inferred that that means that we as a city will not be putting street lights up. But I do think that we might, because some streets are going through and not actually where they should be. And that was a convenience when the city started. So some people don't have a big right of way like others. And I think that we should caveat that with on any city streets or city right of ways. I do think that we should say that. And
You have
I
to
don't
take
know.
into account private roads as well. If we're not gonna, it needs to cover private roads as well. So any
We're gonna have-
roadways, however we say that, but
some
there are private roads in this city that we don't want to allow streetlights on either.
Well, and I think we need to maybe just do a definition of what a street light is, right? So a municipal street light or the equivalent, it's what we're trying to bar, I believe, with that statement.
And-
It's
and-
not some person like, Janet with her string of lights. That's not a street light.
Right, but he makes a good point
We need to
on the
clarify
private
it.
roads. That's a good
Correct.
point, because we do have quite a few private roads, and we have development agreement for more private roads. And that would lend itself to a further definition of a street, a legal street.
Well, I'm happy to honor, your request there, Steve.
what was it?
So-
Sorry. Oh, the
The
city
public
comments.
comment.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I was gonna say.
Diana, you got thoughts?
About having the public comment now?
If you agree.
Oh, I'm opening it up. So Diana,
Oh.
please.
I'm a little disappointed. I don't want there to be anything that creates management of our neighbors or more, anyone walking around house to house checking with a meter. But during these talks over, months and years, there's been, if we start with our building standards and anything new includes then we're moving towards dark skies that makes a broader difference. And you keep saying you're aware of the impact to plants and animals. I will tell you the greatest impact is to us as a whole. And it's something that I've learned more so just because Eli has retinitis pigmentosa. I know what blue light does to retinas. This is a picture of the color, and I don't love the super amber color. I don't. I'm like right here, my preference. So I want to make a sacrifice and go below 3,000 Kelvin because I know it's beneficial for maybe my kids will start sleeping through the night and fall asleep before 2 a.m. There's so many different pieces. If you have the same 800 watt bulb and one is at 5,000 Kelvin and one is at 2,000 Kelvin, the difference is astounding in the glare and the just the impact on others. And we know there are cars on the road when you're like, oh my gosh, your headlights are killing me. That's the kind of impact that just giving a little bit of focus on Kelvin. And we can say any new structures, every single fixture and light bulb are rated with Kelvin as well as the lumen. And all they have to do is produce, these are the stats, what I'm building in this home. And okay, no problem. It's under and under. As a whole, for the city, we can start educating. Say, did you know? I mean, I have kids and grandkids that would be happy to share just information. And everyone, if we learn something that can be an easy change that's going to make life better, we tend to try to make ways to make that happen. So I'm not all for legislating and monitoring and punishing, but I do think that it's important that we don't take this opportunity lightly. Realize that we can make a difference.
I love that education element. I'd be happy to do, one of my videos or have somebody else do a video that I then post educating on that, right? Which I think is a different conversation than the legislative side of thou shalt not. Because for me, every single light in my home, except for my garage, because I work in my garage, so I like a brighter Kelvin there, but I'm 3,000 Kelvin everywhere. That's my preferred light. And when I build a home, I push my clients towards a 3,000 Kelvin light. In my garage, they're 5,000 Kelvin so that I can see when I'm working, which is just a different situation. But I think going down that educational element is, I think, a very, very good idea. And I think it's helpful. And I think we can move some people there without, with a carrot versus a stick.
Well, and also you think about it, people understand when they're working on their computer or on their phone a lot, they'll buy extra blue light glasses on purpose,
Right,
whether
that's
they
right.
have a prescription or not. And I have some at home, right? And we automatically, because we've learned about we should be wearing them on the computer, but you don't always, I've never really thought about it as being the same type of lighting interference in overhead lighting or outdoor lighting as I do with my computer lighting, which I see as a health factor, until you just said that about your kid.
Yeah. It's blue light filtering. Is we're cutting the blue.
Right.
Yeah, that's what these do.
Yeah, that's what mine do.
Because I stare at the computer and my eyes are ruined because I stare at the computer for like 14 hours a day.
Mine are just genetic.
Mine were perfect until a couple of years ago.
Oh, I didn't introduce myself, Diana Sackett.
Jody's here. She knows who it was this time. She was gone last time. She
That
didn't
is
know.
helpful though, thank you.
And I sent some of you a picture.
Yeah, saw that.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I don't have your phone number.
I'm tired of talking about this.
So am I.
I think we're all getting a little fatigued here.
And
but-
I really don't think it's just about lighting. It's about the procedures in the city. Seriously, we've been working on this for 6 years. 6 years.
And our old ordinance is from 93. It needs updated.
Yeah, and think back on the survey that we did. Most of the community wants dark sky. Most of the community does not know what the ordinances are. So nobody knows to complain to Wayne. I doubt anybody or many people know about the complaint form. It's not just about lights. It has to do with education. And PTR did have that on their agenda Tuesday night, but we ran out of time, so we tabled it. But, and it isn't about dark sky legislating what the city does. Gosh, I don't know where to go with this. Like I say, I'm tired of talking about it. I do believe in the education, taking the survey results into account. It isn't just what Brian wants or what Dan wants, or, I mean, your opinion does matter and you are a citizen, but most of the citizens that took the survey want a dark sky environment. And I think we're leaning towards that direction. When we talk about how to make it compliant, this has been a big learning curve for PTR as to how to make this happen. Wayne has been an incredible tutor to me. The original ordinance that we sent to Wayne 2 months ago, maybe? Oh, longer than that. How to enforce this through new structures. Commercial, neighborhood commercial and residential buildings must submit an architectural lighting plan with their building permit application with sufficient detail to determine compliance with lighting standards. All new residential structures must comply with the standards within this ordinance. This gets us past we're going to be building a lot in the next year or so. Summit Creek, their lighting has changed over there. I'm not going to push the lumens per acre, but I think it's a great idea. I'm just happy that the lights are going to be pointing down and not up. If you're going to have your landscaping lighting on, turn it off. It doesn't have to be on all night long unless it's a flag, because there are people that want to look up. There are people that walk through the city at night in the dark. This is a good moving forward, what we've got, but I think we need a way of how to enforce it. We need to educate the public on what dark sky could be, the elements of it. It isn't turn your lights off. And we need to come up with a policy within the city where that ordinance can be enforced, not by Wayne. Because that's not happening now, because nobody complains except me and one other person. And the person whose lights are so bright that it's dangerous on a particular road, it isn't really the lights, it's the fixture, because it's all glass and it illuminates out into the road. The fixture should be pointing down, and it doesn't. So I guess that's it's the last time I want to say this. It's city policy, how to enforce the ordinance and move forward with an ordinance where we're dimming it down, pointing it down, and being respectful of our neighbors. And education on dark sky, which PTR is happy to handle.
They could do some videos. Why don't we have somebody from PTR do some videos and post them?
Well, see, that's where dark sky becomes an incredible resource. I don't remember if you remember the presentation that we did on dark sky.
They probably have a bunch already.
Oh, there's tons. We're using them as a resource, and would say that this is coming from dark sky, not necessarily coming from the city. It's coming from dark sky. Just think about it. Think about what you're doing with your light. And PTR is happy to do that.
Perfect. Let's have a discussion on that front. Thank you.
Okay.
Sean, do you have anything you want to add?
It's under
the sky.
Are you allowing web comments?
Should I read it?
I am allowing comments right this second on this topic, yes.
I'm torn. I like all the discussion that's going on. I think we've spent a lot of time going back and forth. I do really like the education piece of it. But we should, if we're not willing to enforce something, then we shouldn't have it on the books. So I think we need to be careful on the wording with that kind of stuff. I think this is going to be a pretty sensitive topic, but I do think the education is the right place to start as we finalize it.
What did you say, Sean? Is a good place to start?
Education.
Education, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you, Sean. Watchdog, do you have anything you want to say?
It's a cool name.
Okay, if not, then we'll proceed. Yes, Jody, you have something you want to say?
I do. I have a son that comes home at all hours because of his job. And there's nothing worse than him having to come home at 2:30 in the morning after being out all night on a call and having not an ability to go take the dog out, walk around his property. Now, he's not worried about it. I get it. He's packing. Mom is worried about it, right? Because he's walking around, stumbles, falls. He can't sleep right away. We've got a lot of shift workers between nurses and doctors and law enforcement. They have to be able to come home at odd hours and they're gonna have lights on, and it may be more than 10 or 15 minutes if they take the dog out quick for a walk, because that may be their only chance to get outside. So I like the idea of educating people and letting them choose, but I also don't want to make it so strict that we can't let these people go out at night and at least get out and stretch their legs.
Okay, Diana.
I agree. And there is some ambiguity in what was written already with security. It doesn't have a meaning. So it being undefined, I think, is worrisome. I think we should at least say motion activated, and definitely motion activated. You're out there to walk your dog or to blow off steam of your own. Motion activated, shielded, low glare, lighting stipulated would be a simple addition and potentially huge benefit. Also, we might want to consider a time limit to motion activated, because once it stops detecting motion, you can set it to stand for 3 hours. So we might not want that part.
Of course. And then, the deer, the trigger, and then it's flashing.
I think it changed.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, are we good to proceed? Unless anybody is feeling masochistic, let's keep going.
I have a few, no, just kidding.
You want something, Steve? I'll give it to you.
Yeah, you will. I know.
Ted, let's hear about something else.
City grants.
City grants, please.
It's a lighting grant? Is that what you said?
Lighting, yes. It's not lighting grants, Steve. And actually, one quick second, Ted. I want to thank everybody. That was a good run of kind of how I want to run something like that, right? Is when it needs more, let's add more. When it doesn't, let's be able to keep it going. Sorry, Ted, carry on.
So as far as grants go, you're all aware of the assistance firefighter grant. That one we pretty much wrapped up, got all our equipment. We're just getting our reimbursement. It's been submitted to FEMA, so we're just waiting to get our check for that one. Right now, we have got 2 grant opportunities we're looking into applying for. One is through Mountain Land Association of Governments, MAG. We submitted a concept idea to MAG a few weeks ago. And then yesterday, Ben and I went and sat through a 7-hour meeting and 45 presentations on concept ideas from 45 projects from several communities in Utah County, one of which is ours. So we did a presentation on ours. The concept idea we presented was, as you know, we recently completed the trail study for the city. And out of that, there were 3 segments of trails identified, phased in 3 phases to construct. We presented getting
to MAG, getting some MAG funding for phase one of the project. Well, segment two, we would call it phase one of the project, which would start kind of from the new mailboxes and then come up to the city center. Mainly because that one is more favorable for funding because of the interconnectivity to the regional trail system. So we presented our concept idea on that yesterday, got some feedback, project idea yesterday, got some feedback. The next step is to submit a concept plan. And then from there, it'll get voted on. And if it makes the priority list, then it will then go to the mayor or the board vote to then get funded. So there's a few steps to determine if it gets funded or not. They have 250 million in projects submitted and 110 million dollars to fund. So you see they've got to cut more than half of the cost.
But I think there's a decent probability that we could get awarded.
Yeah, it's ours was one of the, I would say, in the bottom 10% of costs of projects. So just to give you an idea, it's the first phase of this project was estimated at $3 million. The grant pays 93-point-something% of that. In other words, our match would be 6.77% if we get the $3 million. That match for us would be in the range of $150,000 to $200,000, depending on where the final number came in. We're submitted for $3 million. Project comes in less. We are just 6.77%, whatever the project cost is. We've already started that process because if we acquire right away, that goes towards our match dollars. And we have already worked with a developer to acquire some right away for the trail as they're building out a development. And that was to a value of about $60,000. So we're part of the way there. And I think that showed favorable back. So if we do end up getting the grant, we'll have some road funds we'll have to look at for some match dollars. And then also we can do in-kind through the city, and we've got some excavators in the city that are willing to help us out and some stuff like that. So that's one grant we're pursuing. The second one is a grant through the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant, which is for a pickleball court at the parks. That's the one I've been sitting back there working on. While I was listening to all this fun discussion, that one is a grant. We don't know the final cost of that yet because we're still pulling together our estimates, but pickleball court in the neighborhood. We've been consulting with our consulting engineers who are pulling together a little bit of just a concept plan for it. And then they reached out to a pickleball court company that builds the pickleball courts. And so we've been consulting with that company as well to get costs and really how we should build it and stuff like that. It's probably in the neighborhood of 100,000, 120,000.
Make sure it's facing the right way.
What's that?
Make sure it's facing the right way, north and south.
I think that's the way we've got to face it. So right now, just for an idea, we've looked at several locations. Now, this is concept planning. It would go to the west side of the pavilion, kind of where those volleyball standards
Where the
are.
volleyball is.
Because that's the flattest. If we go between the playground, we looked at between the playground.
You'd have to go east and west.
And it's believe it or not, it's about a 6-foot drop off.
Okay.
From the pavilion down to the playground, so we'd have to have retaining walls and all that kind of stuff. If we go the other side, the same thing. So if we go to that west side, it'll face north and south, and we don't have to do as much grading.
Will you have fencing all the way around it or like 3 sides?
We're budgeting fencing right now all the way around is how they recommend building it.
Is it double court or single?
Double court.
Double court, okay.
Double court. It would be like 60 by 65. Double court. I don't think and they've also included the cost putting a basketball standard, at least at one end, if not both.
That is something else that we really need, that I think, but they'll never get a chance to use it because the pickleball people will get on it.
I was just thinking.
When you prepare the grant, which is a very
Right, the first
quite a
refusal.
process, is one of the things that shows favorable is if you can have it as a multi-use facility. So pickleball court, if it can be used for basketball, if we could put up our volleyball standards are there, maybe move to the ends. So you could put up a net, use it as a volleyball court as well, or badminton, a yoga platform, stuff like that. It really shows positive.
This has fence around it?
Fence around it.
Because that's why I was asking about the fence around it, is because when we had talked about it with PTR, one of the things that we were looking forward to was maybe for Woodland Hills Days to be able to utilize that space, as a setup area, or you can
And will
have,
it be first time?
kids could have a dance, could we remove the nets, I guess is my question, because like you could have a dance out there
Right, right.
for the teenagers or whatever,
Yeah.
for Woodland Hills Days.
Believe in them.
Okay.
and you
Yeah,
more puck.
yeah, the nets, and like I said, we're still in the concept phase of this, so if we can make some of these.
I'm just
final
thinking
decisions,
multi-use,
if we get
that
final.
was something that we'd love to, you know what I mean, be able to have a dance up there or something.
That looks more favorable for the funding when it's multi-use facility. I did have a phone meeting with DNR about this application and got some feedback from them. They thought it was a favorable project, but also caveat that with this grant is very competitive. So they're probably one of their most competitive grants to apply for. So,
Okay.
so those are the two grants. And then I'm also working on one possibly for, if I can get it done in time, because I've got these two grants plus one other I was trying for, but they're all due like right at the same time. And that is a Ready, Set, Go grant, which helps us get some wildland PPE and or some chipping. And then I was actually on a meeting today with State Forest or Forestry Fire and State Lands, and they're going to send me some information on grant opportunities for a chipper for our community. And he thought that would be very favorable.
Acquisition of a chipper.
Acquisition of a chipper, and he thought we'd have a very good chance at that.
Does
We
that
would
chipper
use
have a
it.
propeller?
So it could be a helicopter.
Wait a minute, what size is this?
Hey, somebody's been flying over my house the last 3 or 4 days. Has that been you?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
Ted?
Ted's buzzing you.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Yes,
now
somebody
that, she
from-
just came up with an awesome, helipad.
Yeah, so there you go.
Hey, somebody's been buzzing my house like the last 3
Diana, that's
days.
against the rules.
Is that you?
That
You
is-
spoke out of turn.
I've been, I have no idea who that is.
Was that you?
I've been test driving.
Oh, really?
Or are they trying to
Are they
cause
trading?
avalanche?
Because my gosh.
Yeah,
They've been flying low. Yeah, it shook my
Yes.
whole house.
I've been test driving.
Monday it shook my whole house.
Okay. Anything else with grants?
No, unless you have any other questions. The match for a pickleball court is, you can request a match that you would like. For Utah County, their recommended match is 50-50. And we've got some ideas on how to pay for that 50% too, so it wouldn't have to possibly come from budget.
And it could be in kind as well,
It
right?
can be in kind, yes. And once again, we've had some excavators that have come and said, we'll help you with that for no cost. And so I think we've got some in kind ways to help with that. But it's a competitive grant, so we'll give it our best shot.
Wonderful. Thank you for that work. Yeah, spending the day with you, I saw that you've got a lot on your plate, so I appreciate this sacrifice. Community development, as well as public works, as well as fire department.
So I hesitated whether to bring this up today, but I will. And it's not really as a discussion item, but more of as a thought for a future discussion. Some months ago, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, I don't remember exactly when, we had some residents calling us about trucks using engine brakes in the city. This, like I said, has been several months ago. So at the time, we went out and talked to some of the construction companies and truck drivers about this. Wayne did, about the use of engine brakes. They were very concerned about not being able to use them because we were trying to caution them, maybe you shouldn't use them if you don't have to. They were very concerned about not using them for their safety. So the comment was then, well, let's try and limit the use of your engine brake if you can. Use it for the steep hills and stuff like that. And since then, I've heard, I'm not a social media man, but I've heard that on social media, there is some more comments going around recently about trucks using engine brakes in the city. So we've been talking quite a bit about this. I went also and spoke to some more drivers. And then I read our ordinance. It would fall under probably our public nuisance ordinance. And I'll leave that to you guys to read to see if you think engine brakes would fit under that ordinance or not.
The noise ordinance.
The noise ordinance. It has some, if you look at public nuisance, it has 5 things in there that specifically call out what would fall under the nuisance ordinance. Now, when they talk about construction equipment, materials, stuff like that, that is restricted hours. So would it fall under the construction equipment? I'll leave that you guys read and decide. I don't know whether it would be enforceable. I think the ordinance is a little bit interpretive on the fact whether it be enforceable or not. So that was the comment. Read it, think about it, if this is something we want to continue to pursue. What I will address it from is the public safety side. So and we'll be happy to take it from the council. As I've thought about this and had discussions, just for the information of you guys in the public, I'm not sure if people are always aware. We, in just recent years, have had, that I know of, 3 dump trucks go off the hill, trying not to use Jake brakes. One ended up in the front yard of one of our residents, tipped over. The other one ended up going through the roundabout without brakes. And this was them in low gear. This is driver's reports to us and law enforcement. This is them going in lower gears and trying to feather the brakes, as they call it. Still lost their brakes. And when they're on the hill, they can generally negotiate being on the hill. It's when they come to the bottom of the hill. They have no brakes to stop. In the case of the roundabout, we've had 2 trucks go straight through the roundabout and tip. Years ago, we had one that went before the roundabout there, went off the hill, rolled, killed the driver, and his son ended up committing suicide because of that.
Yeah.
So we've had several safety issues.
We also had one on Sky Lake once that was coming down the hill before we had the houses all there, and it went off onto the side where, in that little spot between where Brown's house is and
Anyway.
yeah, right there.
So, and the 2 that recent, went off in the front yard. I'm glad there's young families. I'm glad their kids weren't out there. And so I'm concerned. It is an engine brake is a tool for them to use, and especially in our city where we live on such steep slopes. When we talk to truck drivers, they say they almost can't negotiate some of our hills without them, when they're loaded with some concerns.
I don't know how we could tell them they can't use them, really.
Well, there are cities that can limit Jake brake use or engine brake use through your ordinance.
I know, but
Quite a few cities have it, of the urban cities.
I know, but
Yeah, in our city, I think that would be a little more challenging, especially loaded. Having been a big truck operator in the history, I would never go out this city without the ability to use an engine brake. The one more recently in the last couple of days it's actually a semi pulling a side dump up on Eagle Nest, if you know where Richard Larson lives. They're building a house up there. That's where it's been coming from the last couple of days. And usually these hauls are intermittent. They're a couple of weeks while they're excavating for a house or something like that. Now, they might be ongoing through the summer at very different locations, but they vary throughout the city where they're at. So it's one thing for the city to consider. It has come up from a few residents, so I wanted to bring it up. I've talked to our sheriff, Sergeant Dutson, about it. He's offered his input as well, and has also offered to help us coordinate having the UDOT.
Highway Patrol Commercial Vehicle Sergeant maybe come and talk to the council, kind of give their input on these steep hills that we have up there in Woodland Hills and trucks, and maybe their input on engine brakes.
Now, I don't doubt drivers have ways of trying to limit their use of them through the way they work their brakes and conditions of the trucks and all that kind of stuff. But I definitely don't think we want to stop them from using them, because that's another tool in their bag to use in the event something goes wrong. Especially
completely. I used to be a truck driver. I actually drove dirt truck, and I lost my brakes going down Woodland Hills Drive once. So I do have some experience driving here. It's been many years ago, before the circle was there, luckily, because I don't know that I would have been able to navigate that when I lost my brakes. My concern would be if we were to decide to restrict this, which I would be against, it could put us in a liability situation that if someone got hurt, they could blame. Because I know as a driver, I would say, hey, I'm in this steep area and they won't let me use my Jake brake. And that would have the insurance company coming after our city. And that's the last thing we need.
That would be my overall concern is, obviously it's about the safety of our community, and that's where our concern is. I'm thinking of it more from a public safety aspect than an ordinance enforcement, but obviously that's something for you guys to think about.
Legal definition of a nuisance. A nuisance is an unlawful, substantial, and unreasonable interference with a person's use and enjoyment of their land. That would be a private nuisance. Or with the health, safety, or property rights of the general public, which would be a public nuisance. So even by definition, it's not a nuisance.
And we have also a public nuisance definition in our ordinance as well, 5.1.
How far is that?
Yeah, and it's generally, we list
Pretty close to
basically
that.
5 things where we restrict construction to hours, where we restrict some of the sports events to certain hours. And then if it's loud music and stuff like that, obviously a nuisance. So, but, that's something that if we wanted to enforce, we could tighten that up to do that. But I'm just from a public, I don't want to take that tool away from our public for their safety.
Yeah, I don't know that you take away an annoyance over someone's safety. Like, there's just gonna be things that are going to annoy us. Like, we can't eliminate everything.
Well, our mandate is health, safety, welfare. That's as a city, health, safety, welfare, and safety is a big part of everything that we do. And so.
And just having seen it, I mean, if we've obviously have seen several drunk trucks roll. Luckily, the drivers were okay, and they didn't at the time injure somebody. I followed a truck off the hill about a year or so ago, a semi off the hill, and he got right to the bottom in Salem, pulled over because all these tires were on fire, and he was even using a brake at the time. So it's challenging getting off our hill.
He had a heavy load.
Yeah, he had a heavy load, granted.
We've had our boat tires on fire going down the hill before.
Yeah. Diana, real quick.
With speed, if they had to drive a little slower, would that help this issue? They also don't know where they're going, and they have been going faster than the speed limit. And one ended up on Spring today, and there's no way down that's safe. Craig had to help the guy navigate backwards out of there. Would a speed restriction, if the vehicle is so much weight, gross weight, would that help? I don't know if we can even do
I
that.
think if they're loaded and going downhill, it's still gonna be super hard on those brakes.
Because even in a low gear, you still have to use the brakes to restrict your speed.
I'm just like to drive slower, because the last 2 days, I feel like they are not.
Yeah, and our speed limit is 25, until you get past the city center, that's 35. And 30 down Summit Creek, but anyway, something to think about, but.
Yeah, and let's think about that as a future agenda item to discuss in further detail. I think one other variable there for me is I think it's easy for us to forget that at one point in the history of our city, your home was being built and your trucks were using the Jake brakes during its construction. And those types of annoyances, I think that was a good word, Janet, are fleeting. They're not permanent. I think the boring of the well, Janet tells me that was a headache-inducing affair for months as we bored the new well up on Broad Hollow, right? As they bored
I couldn't
new
hear my
cable.
TV in my living room. It was so loud. And all the exhaust came down into my
But even
house.
then, I think those were necessities for the sake of the future of our city. And so I think some patience is warranted here, but thank you so much for addressing that.
I also think we should consider not us, but this county is rebuilding the roundabout, and I would much rather have somebody be slowed down before they go through that than just plow into it or potentially plow into other cars that now may be more prevalent at the roundabout.
And the new design of the roundabout will actually aggravate this a little bit because it will be bigger, it will be wider. It'll be easier for them to navigate through, but it will not be as a short bank to get around. So we need them slowing down before they hit that roundabout.
Yep, just want to be here, if you're interested, we can have the.
I think that's a great idea. Have them come and talk about it.
Could you arrange that,
It's like a
Sergeant?
commercial vehicle, so they're gonna know more about the equipment and how it's run.
Yeah, why don't you schedule it as an upcoming presentation?
Most of them are doing like Ted's driven, Ryan's driven, I've driven, when you use those engine brakes, it really does slow the vehicle.
Perfect, thank you.
So
Fire?
the only other thing in Public Works is I don't really have anything else. I have any fire, just a couple of things real quick. Our wildland crew has been deployed to Texas. So they are in Texas right now.
I was gonna ask, because I've seen the Forerunner out here.
Yep. They got deployed to Texas on Saturday. They left. So they'll be out there for a couple of weeks. They're part of a state task force that Utah sent. So several fire departments out there joined with them. So
Is
out
Lance
there.
the crew boss?
What's that?
Is Lance
Lance is the crew boss, and we sent 3 people with him. So
Crew of 4 total.
crew of 4, yep, so out there earning us some money.
Sweet.
And lastly, I had a conversation with the state today, and we are planning some mitigation work with the Forestry Fire and State Lands. We planned out an area, so they'll be up here some point during the summer. We're putting together contracts right now, and we'll be doing mitigation work, primarily focused up kind of above our water tank and wells. In the event that a fire would come down that hill, it would protect our infrastructure, our water and our wells and stuff like that, as well as coming below on our property down that hill, below it too. So we're working on some agreements there. We have to get some agreements in place with the landowner, with the city, and we'll be working in that area. Probably the state will be working in that area this year.
Great.
To protect our
Infrastructure.
through the area.
Wonderful.
So
Okay.
that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. Code enforcement, anything, Wayne?
Oh.
Perfect. I like that. That was a really good report.
Couple lines.
Those are over at Steve's house. We'll send you over later.
We'll give you the address.
Aaron did have a meeting today, and so I've asked Carrie to kind of be an informal liaison with emergency management, since she has a church calling that puts her in those same meetings. So she's going to give Aaron's report. Aaron has said he couldn't be here today. He had a previous engagement. So Carrie.
They had a presentation from Eagle Mountain on an internship project that they've been doing with 2 of their high schools out there. And Aaron is going to be looking into that to see if something similar would be beneficial for Woodland Hills, for our high school age kids to actually take a class and get credit for coming up here and being a certified. They actually get 5 certifications through a CTE program. And the students in Eagle Mountain are on a track, like they want to be an EMT, they want to do something else. This gives them a head start. And so he gave us that presentation, and then Aaron's going to be looking into that on what it might take if it's something that we would be interested in having here in our city.
Wonderful. Cool. Thank you. And then I don't see a door, so no 911 dispatch. We had that last time. Now for our reports. Personnel from myself, personnel, we've got great staff. It's been very illuminating for me over the last 2 months, being here and spending quite a bit of time with them. I just want to thank each of you for all of the time, the energy, the extra time, the energy that you guys are putting in. It's been, for the last 4 years, I've known how great a staff we've had. For the last 2 months, I understand that even further. We've really are taking great care of here in the city. As for legal update, I do have a slight update for the community. I promise that it's not the same lengthy one that we gave last time. This is just for U.S. District Court case number 2:CV-CV-00794-JCB. The complaint names the city and several elected official staff in their official and individual capacities. This case is docketed, summons is issued, and the motion to dismiss has been filed. Fuge's opposition was due on February 16th. However, they did request from the city an extension to that. We countered that request with a shorter extension due to some personal matters that they are dealing with right now. They did not accept our shorter, and so they went to the courts, and the courts did grant them an extension of that shorter, which we had proposed. And
Which
so
date
that's,
is that?
what's that?
What date is that extension till?
I think it's the
Early March.
March 10th. So
21 days or
Yep.
something.
And so so that's the legal update. So again, same type of kind of thing, if we can hold to 5 minutes or less, because we all spend all of our time on the lighting ordinance. Councilmember Hutchings, Planning Commission.
Well, that's easy because planning commission got snowed out, so nothing to report.
And that got rescheduled for when?
I haven't heard actually, sorry. I don't know if we got it rescheduled or if we're just skipping. That'd be a thing.
Yeah,
Tomorrow?
Brian, that'd be tomorrow night. Yep.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Jones, Public Safety.
So I have not set up the meeting with the public safety group, so I will have an update for the next month's.
So I'll give you an update there.
Okay, thank you.
So I was given the last public safety meeting we had, Councilmember Kinnison assigned me that I create an evacuation map for the city with an updated due to the fact that our old one only had one exit from the city plus our alternates. We now have 3 exits from the city. So I have done a preliminary redraft of that. And so during that meeting, I'll be able to propose that. Yes.
When I moved in, one of my neighbors brought me that original map and I still have it, but I have it up like inside a cupboard door. It would be really nice if we could distribute those again. I know there's a cost associated with that, but especially new residents that only know the one way that they always go because they get lost if they try to go a different direction. It would be really, I think that would be public safety, right? I think that would be a really
On
good
my,
use of funds.
Wish list, I'm hoping to create a new move-in packet. When I moved in, we got a kind of a packet of what are the few things that you should be known or you should know living in our wooded community.
No pigs, no, yeah,
No
all the
pigs,
things.
But that's
goats,
part of that
no
as well.
goats.
So thank you.
No roosters.
I think that's an easy thing for us to pull off. Thank you, Councilmember Johns. Councilmember Lund, PTR, Finance Committee, Events, Communication, all the things.
Yeah, so PTR, we met, we had a good discussion, we had a new member, we talked about several items, just some of the items have already been talked about here tonight as far as the possibility of pickleball court and those kinds of things. One of the other things that we're looking at is doing a conservancy easement for the switchback trails. And so we discussed that a little bit. That's something that I'm looking into. There is a caveat on that. And so we have to look at that because they don't want, if there is a conservancy easement, you can't just do the trail. You kind of have to do all the land that's associated with it. So we're gonna have to look at the maps. I haven't had time, sit down with Jody and with the mayor and look at the maps and with Ted probably and look at that and see if that's gonna be feasible or not. But that's something that we were looking towards, and what that would prevent is future development on that piece of land. And the reason that matters is that there is a lot of land above Broad Hollow and above that could be developed in the future. It's owned by parties that own it with the intent that someday they want to develop it. And so we would just protect that piece and it would give us a nice barrier for our wildlife, just to have a nice barrier in between any of that. So that couldn't be developed in the future. So that was that. Our finance committee didn't meet and events, they were meeting for Maple Festival. Are we having it? What are we doing?
As far as I know, it's still happening, although we haven't been able to process any sap because of the way the weather has gone.
But Amanda did tell me though that she has some alternate sap reserved.
Yeah, well, there is some, and also a request was put out to other areas of the state that we could process theirs if they didn't have the ability to.
So
she last I heard, we were still having it, but
may not have as much. Okay.
Although Palmer's is getting flow.
yeah. Halfermans are getting the flow, but the rest of us, not so much.
Is it sweet or is it turned
I
bitter?
didn't,
No,
I didn't go.
It's not,
Oh, you checked.
yeah,
We started, but we haven't tasted it. We haven't,
yeah.
we're always last.
So that's tentative. But that's the only thing that we have upcoming right away with it still being winter. We don't have a lot of that. And then just those of you for our newsletter, it is the last week of the month. So I need newsletter articles. What month? Is it you? Okay,
I think I'm next month.
I'll send a reminder. I'm glad you remembered, Steve. But yeah, but I need those. And this week's a heck of a week. Luckily, sadly, Corner Canyon lost in the first round of the state tournament, so I'm not missing a ball game right now.
So you were kind and let somebody else win this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay.
And on a sad note,
Okay, Councilmember Malkovich.
yeah.
5 minutes on
I'm
topic.
gonna be less, I hope. There are 1,000 bills out right now. We are tracking 250 that affect municipal government. There's 10 days left of the session. So there is a lot of work going on and some late nights are coming. Maybe till midnight starting Thursday. So they want to get a bunch done. We're tracking bills that have to do with housing and land use. A lot of those we oppose. We've been working on trying to modify some of those. The tax and rev, a lot on property tax that are conflicting with each other. So we're trying to see where legislators might want to merge some of those things and take out the ones that we don't like and try to support the ones that we do. There is the gas tax update. It started out as taking off the fuel tax, and they were going to then put it on to Idaho. And Idaho did a big pushback. And so they are now the state somehow is going to absorb that out of the general fund and still lower gas tax, but make it revenue neutral for the cities. We will still get our B&C road funds, at least for now. Depending on the future, that could change. So people are going to watch that. There's a lot on transportation and transportation funding that we've been working on. Part of that would be the transportation infrastructure fees, road fees to help pay for your roads. Economic development, there's quite a bit on that. Public safety amendments. The law enforcement uses of unmarked vehicles. Detson and I talked about that earlier. We, as a league, are actually opposed to that, but it's a very popular bill right now to say that you can't get pulled over by an unmarked car for a traffic violation.
You can't?
That's the bill. So it's something that right now they can do, but this bill says, no.
That defeats the purpose of an unmarked vehicle.
It keeps us all living in fear.
And
It's
so
obedience
that's what they're
through
trying
fear.
to do. So
You
we'll
learn
see
in which
where that
town
goes.
what unmarked vehicle they have.
There's 3 bills out
manly.
there that talk about impact fees. We oppose all of them. There's one on election amendments that we oppose. 2 that we actually oppose. I brought up the one last time, and then there's another one. There's also some legal updates that the tort reform one that I talked about last time, we're opposed to, but it's sailing through because they have enough lawyers in the room, I guess. It's not good for the cities at all. And then the one that I think is the most important, I mean, you can chime in on anything and ask me questions if you've heard of things in particular, but the one that I've asked Jody and Ted to let me know before 8 a.m. because I have to have my report in before 8:30 a.m. because it's going to be heard on the floor tomorrow, is House Bill 501 Water Modifications Update. I gave you that last time. It's now in its second substitute. And so they have taken out some of the things that are in there. If you go all the way to line 434, it defines that our investment require has to be an amount generated through rates, property tax impact fees, or other revenue sources. which is an important thing. It means that 1.5% or the 3% used to calculate it, but it doesn't say that we have to raise our rates by 1.5 or 3%, because before it was a mandatory. We could use other means to generate that amount of money. All funds raised, they've changed it that all funds raised stay with the city. It doesn't go to a state fund and back. Clarifies that we can still have our tiered water rates. That doesn't go away, because that was one of the ideas. And then also that we have 2 years to change our rates instead of everybody has to change them by next January. And then the first sub removed that all water systems have to increase their rate. It only applies to cities like ours who seek state funding, federal or state grants. So there is some concern with that MAGI formula that we've talked about in our city, getting to the edge of what we can really do. We've had a water study done before, and this is kind of saying, well, if you want any money from us, you have to raise the rates first and keep them. And so that's probably one of the main ones we're tracking, other than we were able to, the small lot bill of House Bill 184, we were able to stop that one, so it failed. Also failed was the building inspection, the House Bill 470, that we were able to get that one stopped. The property tax changes of 484 is held and probably won't come out. And then there is this weird one for municipal clerks on elections, talking about that anyone running, even though this is a nonpartisan election, you'd have to put your party on the city website. And then there's another one with regards to political signs, where you can put them on city right-of-ways and other things. So that, and then how long they can stay up and who can take them down and where they have to be stored.
Party thing I don't like, because it's already so divisive.
Is that still, are those both going?
Those
through
are still both going right now, and
That should
we've
be up to the
opposed
cities.
both.
Yeah, right, I can imagine.
But, so again, if there's anything that you want me to talk about extensively. Oh, the other thing is that we are, everything that's an appropriation has been sent to executive appropriations, and the local administrator fee is there, fourth on the list of government ops. So we're sending things to all of the people on exec appropes to say, please, please, please fund this. And then there's also an appropriation for cybersecurity that we're working on. So lots of things happening in the next 10 days, and it will change by tomorrow. But Ted, if you can give me your feedback on that email I sent you, then I can submit that with regards to those water modifications. Otherwise.
Well done. That was impressive, thank you.
Yeah, we don't like it, but it's going forward.
Okay, Councilmember Roden, IT communications options.
Yes, one of the things that I've been looking at, per your directive, you know, Mayor, your desire, I've been kind of leaning in on your desire for increased transparency, and communication to the city. So I wanted to take that as part of my, my line items to figure out, and investigate technologies that would accelerate, those needs and those desires. One of the primary things that we have to take into consideration with any technology is the adoption of that technology, and to ensure that it's fully capable of doing more than just piecemeal communications. For example, a combination of survey, video distribution, direct communication, etc. So I've been investigating several of those softwares. There's a plethora out there. Obviously, we want to make sure that anything we do follows appropriate security protocols, etc. Also, we currently have, you know, text messaging services, etc. We want to ensure that this is something that the residents truly want, that they are seeing that as a need and would want to adopt something like this, and finding that sweet spot between being informative and being valuable to our residents and for us as a council and the mayorship, but also not being intrusive in any way. So obviously opt-ins, et cetera, opt-outs need to be clearly defined. And then usability on both PCs, so basically desktops, as well as mobile devices is also a key feature as well. So those are the things that I'm working on right now. We've got a few that are very attractive, and we'll be making more progress. And once we're ready, we'll present something to the group.
I have a question for you, Dan. So when you're talking about text messages, are you talking about the Everbridge program with emergencies?
Well, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, there are cities that, I'm sorry, residents currently get text messages through Everbridge, but they also get text messages about their bills being available, et cetera. So it's a matter of how do we effectively communicate with our residents without sending them to, multiple different types of platforms, and then also allowing them to specifically opt into the types of communications they want to have with the city.
Because I think we need to keep our emergency one.
Sure.
That was so helpful during the fire.
Yeah, we're not looking to deter from anything. We're looking for another potential option that could be more of a informative, more frequent communication while making sure Everbridge stays. When you get an Everbridge text, it's pay attention to this now. This is a serious utilization of your time.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the main considerations in this entire project is too much information. We all have inboxes, especially those of you who are Gmail users. You have inboxes with thousands of unread messages simply because there's just too much noise. We want to definitely avoid that. So, yeah.
I have a lot too. Work, personal, and city council.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Yep, you bet.
Okay, anything, items for upcoming city council meetings?
Are we going to have a budget retreat that's separate from this meeting?
Not currently that I'm planning on, due to the fact that we have the new process that I think will hopefully make it flow well, though I'm not opposed to it. So if you have thoughts on that, let's continue to have those
That was our
conversations.
once a year dinner.
Well, we may still have that once a year dinner.
I feel like we got deprived of our dinner last year. There wasn't even a dinner. Was there a dinner?
No.
Maybe there was.
I don't remember. I don't remember. We will work on that one though. Perfect. Anything else? Okay, currently we are at 9:12.
It's so late. What happened to making it a shorter meeting?
We're doing really good.
Short agenda it was supposed to be.
It was a short agenda and you guys got passionate. Then we're gonna go towards 9:20. We will we will reconvene and have a city council meeting. We can, okay, we'd like to call to order this city council meeting on February 24th, 2026. We're going to have an invocation from Councilmember Malkovich and a pledge of allegiance from Councilmember Johns.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be meeting as a city council tonight to discuss the business of our city. We're grateful for the residents who are here in person as well as online, and those who may listen in later, for their participation, for their interest in our city, and for the decisions that we make. We're grateful for the moisture that we have received, for the snow, and we pray for continued moisture. We're grateful that we have a snowplow crew that is on call, ready to help keep us safe in these times as we desire to have that increase. Please bless us this night as we talk about things that are important to our city, decisions that hopefully increase the health, safety, and welfare of our residents, and to continue to respect the integrity of our city and our quality of life. Please bless us as we go forward, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Over your eyes, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dan, what were you looking at? You have a flag down there?
No, I was looking at the flag in the corner on my screen.
And you and Brian are wearing the same outfit. That's
Well, we coordinated earlier this week.
I'd like to open the public comment. Comments are limited to 2 minutes or less. Only in-person comments will be included as part of the official record. So, Sherry, do you have anything else?
Just one little thing that I.
Please come on up. And if you could, state your name for Jody. And
Sherry Berger up on Deep Forest Circle. I like the things that you talked about in the work session that are potential items coming up where we can make a public comment that pertains to something in the future, like the mailboxes. And what I was thinking about the mailboxes was if you're thinking about a lot of glass, definitely the way that's positioned at the roundabout, the way the sun sets, and like coming up Woodland Hills Drive. And the sun, who's your neighbor up there, up past you?
Can't remember, yeah.
There's a big house up there that has a lot of
Big
glass
A-frame.
in the front, and bingo, you get hit right in the eyeballs with the light from their windows.
that is helpful. So we don't want to create a blind spot there when the sun hits it. Let's keep that in mind. We've got an engineer for that.
And a good one.
Exactly. Exactly. Diana, anything else? Okay, perfect. Sean, anything there, or Watchdog? Okay. Then we will close the public comment section of this meeting, and we will then move to the consent agenda for the January 27th, 2026 City Council meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? It's unanimous, that passes. Thank you very much. Resolution 2026-34, acknowledging the receipt of the audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025.
I'll motion.
Councilmember Malkovich with a motion.
Before we motion, I did
Yes.
notice one edit on there. On line 2, there's a paragraph number 2. Is it a typo that is referencing June 30th, 2026?
No, that's our fiscal year end.
Okay, but I think it's referring to the audit that ended 2025, perhaps?
Correct. We haven't done anything from
June
July
30th.
1 of 2025. That will be audited this next.
Next year.
So we're always,
Yes.
So it's the whereas, Jody? It looks like we do, ending June 30th, 2026. It should be 2025, correct?
The second whereas.
yes, I pronounced for yes.
So a resolution of the Woodland Hills, whereas, and that 2026 should be a 2025, correct?
Correct.
Okay, can I get a different motion then?
Yes,
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I'll second that.
yes, that we change that date on there.
To 2025?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So I have a motion from Councilmember Malkovich, a second from Councilmember Johns. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Resolution
Because I read.
2026-35, approving January 2025 fund, approving January 2026 fund disbursements. We're getting all tongue twisted.
I'll make a motion.
Councilmember Jones with the motion.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Lunt with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Ordinance 2026-09, amending city code 10-8-10, the lighting ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to reject, if that's how we say it.
How do you do that? Do we just do a motion to not pass? Is that
Are you just gonna table it? What are you gonna do with the ordinance? Are you
I'm
gonna
just
leave it
flat
alone?
out rejecting it, yeah.
So we've got a motion to reject. Do I have a second to reject?
I'll second it.
So I have a second so Councilmember Johns with a motion to reject, a Councilmember Hutchings for a rejection there on the second. Do I roll call this rejection? Okay. Councilmember.
Can I ask a quick question just for discussion?
Of course.
Is your intent to just go back to what we currently have and leave it there, or are you wanting to rework it for next time?
Well, I feel like we already tabled it to rework and we ended up back to where we were. So I hate to continue to table it only to end up where we've been.
Well, frankly, you can reject it and then draft a new one and we can bring it before again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going away. I'm just saying what's in there, I just can't approve of.
So-
Because we had some good suggestions, I thought, to amend this, but I see what you're saying.
Let's see how this goes. Councilmember Hutchings.
Yes to reject?
Yes to
Let's
reject.
reject.
Councilmember Roden.
Yes to reject.
Councilmember Johns.
Yes to reject.
Councilmember Malkovich.
I mean, I do think it needs some work, so I guess I will also reject until we come back.
Councilmember Lund.
No, to
Okay.
reject.
That motion for rejection passes. Well, thanks for making that one complicated, you guys. I do have a few things that would potentially make sense for us to go into closed session for legal updates and strategy. If anybody would like to make a motion to that.
I'll make a motion to go to closed session.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Hutchings. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Roden seconding that. Councilmember Malkovich.
Yes.
Councilmember Johns.
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hutchings.
Yes.
Councilmember Roden.
Yes.
Okay, we are headed into closed session. Thank you so much for everybody in the public that joined us there. Thank you. Perfect. We are back. Welcome, Watchdog. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll
I have a
second.
motion from Councilmember Johns. I have a second from Councilmember Malkovich. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Hey, Dan, what city are you in?
I'm in Florianopolis.
Oh, okay.